subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Seemed to be worth trying. Isn't that a bit too much? May is still a little worried. Don't worry. Kiana's body has long been familiar with the captain, and it is only the consciousness of the lawyer who resists. It's just lip service. Rita is absolutely confident in this. Otherwise, for such a long time, the lawyer's personality would have come out to make trouble. Every time she is with the captain, she may enjoy it very much. Anyway, let's make something delicious first, and come back to comfort Kiana. May said as she walked towards the kitchen. Ai-chan, let Hyperion stay in place for the time being, waiting for the captain to come back. Ai-chan received. Slowly, Hyperion stopped in the white clouds, and, at the same time, in the imaginary space. Countless huge stones are suspended, forming a natural and excellent hiding spot. Kiana, don't hide, come out quickly. In the midst of the rubble, a figure appeared, a faint voice echoing around it, but no response was received. You really haven't learned how to behave, Kiana. It only takes some time to find you in countless rooms. Arthur naturally had a very easy way to find Kiana, but he didn't want to do that. Sometimes it's the process that's worth enjoying. Arthur's figure wanders among the rubble, strolling leisurely, as if traveling. And just behind a large rock not far away, Kiana clenched her fists, and her body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Damn it, you can't get caught. With her current posture, if Arthur sees her, she may suffer some kind of humiliation. Seeing Arthur getting closer, he tried to shift his position, but he turned around and accidentally kicked a piece of gravel. Oops! Arthur's figure, as he was walking, flashed and came to the big rock, and yet it was empty. His gaze swept over, and he lowered his head, and there were few marks on the stone. Squatting down, dipping his fingers a little and rubbing them, Arthur's mouth curled into a smile. It's getting interesting, Kiana. The game of cat and mouse continues. However, at this moment, Kiana's condition can compare to Arthur's patience. What's more, at a very early stage, Arthur had already locked on Kiana's location, deliberately dangling around her, increasing her tension. Behind another large rock, Kiana clutched her chest and gasped softly. After such a long time, she only felt a dizziness in her head, and the feeling of emptiness almost swallowed her reason. The right hand trembled and put it down and quickly raised it, holding it tightly. No, absolutely not. The lawyer's willpower is indeed strong, and if he were an ordinary person, he would definitely not be able to do it at this time. He took a deep breath and poked his little head out to check Arthur's location. What about people? However, his eyes swept around, but he did not find a single figure. Are you looking for me? Kiana. A soft voice rang in her ears, and Kiana's brain thundered. The desire that had been suppressed to the limit almost exploded at this moment. However, at the last moment, she still insisted on it. Instead of looking back, he leaned forward sharply to distance himself. But since Arthur has already appeared, how can he let her escape? Immediately, Kiana felt a force pull her back. Kiana, who knew that she couldn't escape, waved her right hand, and the spear of a Kong stabbed straight towards Arthur. When you can use all your strength, such an attack won't work, let alone now. There is no power left. Catching the spear of Yakon with ease, Kiana suddenly felt a whirlwind of the heavens. It has been set on top of a huge rock. Damn, let me go. Kiana struggled hard, but her weak struggles seemed very weak. I've been caught now. Don't worry, I won't do anything to you until you ask me. Arthur looked at Kiana with a panicked look on his face. I will never ask you. Kiana tilted her head to the side, but her rapidly heaving chest signaled his inner turmoil. Kiana's patience has reached its limit. Now that Arthur is so close to it, this body instinctively wants to respond. Add to that the propulsion of drugs. It is like a volcano that has been suppressed for tens of thousands of years, faintly erupting. The gaze cast was like a pair of invisible hands, and Kiana could really perceive it. Oh, by the way, there's no one around now, so let's enjoy a specially prepared movie together. Arthur then turned on the communicator, and a light curtain ejected. In the picture, a man and a woman are doing sacred work. This is like adding fuel to the fire. Immediately, turn it off. Kiana raised her head violently. Her eyes were filled with mist, and her golden pupils were no longer as sharp as before. I didn't expect you to wear such a beautiful short skirt like Mei. What are you going to do? It's nothing. Help ease your pain. Is this it? Arthur said as he pressed on the area of Kiana's wound. Kiana's eyes widened instantly, and her brain roared. It looks ready, Arthur said as he took out the powder and slowly and carefully applied it to the injured area. Very slowly, little by little, feeling the surroundings, carefully not letting go of even the slightest gap. All of a sudden, Kiana was sinned. It's as if thousands of ants are biting at her body, slowly encroaching. It's better to kill her directly. But begging Arthur for mercy is absolutely impossible. The two of them were at a stalemate. After 3 hours, Kiana finally spoke. The ship. Captain. A soft voice came out of Kiana's mouth, and by this time, she was on the verge of collapse. What? Although the process of applying the medicine is difficult, Arthur must not be soft. Please. Beg. You. The 3 words of weakness are like the loudest voices. Chapter 149 in the imaginary space. After more than an hour, the battle continued. From the very beginning, Arthur has always had the upper hand, and Kiana can only defend passively. There was no way to do that, and the weakening of her strength made it impossible for her to even fight back effectively. Can only hold on to withstand Arthur's attacks again and again. In more than an hour, Kiana had already shown defeat 4 times. The water rippled underneath him, gradually spreading outward. Kiana, is that all you have to do? I'm still early. Arthur held a spear in his hand, his eyes stared, and he stretched forward, and a little spark of gunfire flashed. Kiana's body trembled and retreated again and again. The only thing you can be proud of is now, and when I regain my strength, I'll let you know how good I am. As time passed, Kiana had felt her strength gradually returning. I believe that as long as a period of time passes, all the lost power can be restored. Maybe that's how powerful women are. Resilience and endurance are much stronger. If you want to regain your strength, don't dream. See me break it all up before you regain your strength. Eat me with one move, continuous thrusting. Eat me one more trick, Chong Hong through the sun. The tip of the gun shook continuously, swinging forward at a rate of dozens of times per second. Then, with a sharp retraction, all the power converged, several times stronger than before, enough to pierce the power through the space and stab forward. Above the tip of the gun, a little flame filled the air. Burst! A trail of blood flowed from Kiana's body. Kiana, you're hurt. Seeing this scene, Arthur was shocked. It stands to reason that it shouldn't. And it's not the first time a fight. How can this happen? Seeing the pain on Kiana's face, Arthur was very distressed and stopped moving. Stepped forward and held Kiana's upper body. I'm sorry, Kiana. My attack was a little too strong. Arthur also blamed himself for getting carried away. Please, Captain, go on. Such a gentle voice made Arthur slightly stunned. Looking down, Kiana bit her lip, her eyes still golden. Could it be that what you just heard was a delusion? And you even call me Captain? For a moment, Arthur stood there as if he had discovered a new world. The ship, long. After a while, it was found that Arthur still did not move. Kiana couldn't help but look up in confusion. Seeing Arthur, who looked like a sculpture, his brows couldn't help frowning. In this moment, turn reactive into proactive. A spinning black hole appears, sucking Arthur's spear into it. Captain, if you don't have a weapon, you might as well take it this time. A smile tugged at the corners of Kiana's mouth. It seemed to be the first time I'd seen Kiana smile in such a form. The tenderness in her eyes is as if she were the real Kiana. There were a lot of surprises today. Seeing that Kiana seemed to have nothing to do, the worry on Arthur's face gradually disappeared, and he said with a hint of a smile, My mind is connected to my weapons. Now that you swallow my weapon, you're in for a bad luck, Kiana. Arthur's mind moved as he spoke, and the still spear immediately let out a trembling sound. It can be clearly seen that the huge force causes ripples on the surface of the black hole. I didn't expect you to be so strong after all this time, Captain. Kiana let out an exclamation, and the power of recovery immediately condensed. You're not bad. I didn't expect to secretly gather such power. Seeing that Kiana still had a tendency to counterattack, Arthur was slightly surprised. Captain, it's Kiana's time next. Taking advantage of Arthur's momentary distraction, Kiana immediately seized the opportunity to launch a counterattack. Whenever Arthur tried to break free of the black hole, Kiana would burst out with even greater power to imprison him. After coming and going, Arthur could only give up his weapon and use his bare hands. Captain, look at the move. In Kiana's hands, a black hole the size of her head condensed and attacked Arthur. Between the two fighting, the figure flew up and down. Kiana, do you want to treat your wounds? Seeing the blood that Kiana showed from time to time, Arthur asked with some concern. It's all right, Captain. It's just a minor injury. Kiana shook her head, then looked at Arthur with some amusement. Could it be that the captain is no longer good and wants to admit defeat and surrender? If the captain wants to throw in the towel, Kiana is acceptable. Seeing that Kiana looked down on him, Arthur said viciously, "Don't cry for a while." Originally, Kiana's strength was much weaker than Arthur's. Now, once Arthur gets serious, Kiana immediately falls into the upper hand. In this imaginary space, there was no concept of time at all, and it was not until Kiana's weak plea for mercy that it gradually subsided. And at the same time, within the Hyperion, "Captain, why haven't they come back yet?" May walked back and forth and a little anxious. Calculating the time, more than 10 hours have passed. "Captain, they're not going to get lost, are they?" The idea popped into his head, and he was thrown out by Mei again. How could it be lost? So it's a little early to cook, and it's not too late to cook it when the captain comes back. Rita on the side seemed to have expected it, with a faint smile on her face. It looks like the captain's information is going to be updated again. Bronya looked at the big screen in front of her and paused, and Sheer sat on the sofa very obediently and waited quietly. Bella, on the other hand, was a little worried about the queen's comfort. He looked a little anxious. At this moment, the space next to it rippled with layers. Arthur walked out of it with Kiana in his arms. "Captain." Seeing Arthur appear, May suddenly rushed over with an arrow. "Kiana, what's wrong?" In her arms, Kiana closed her eyes and seemed to be asleep. "Well, I'm a little tired, plus I'm weak, so I'm in a coma and it's good to rest for a while," Arthur said, and gently carried Kiana to the couch. "Queens." Seeing Kiana fall into a coma, Bella looked distressed. "Looks like Captain Ship, you're making a lot of noise." Rita stood to the side, her chin in her right hand, her eyes filled with meaning. "It's a bit overdone." Arthur brushed Kiana's slightly wrinkled face. "Captain." May walked over with a glass of water. "Thank you, May. Do you have anything to eat? I'm a little hungry." Arthur patted his stomach, a look of embarrassment on his face. "Yes, it's done, but now it's time to warm up right away." For Arthur's request, May will always do her best to meet it. "Captain, water." Kiana's somewhat weak voice came. "Kiana, are you awake?" He placed the glass of water in his hand to Kiana's mouth. Kiana, who had her eyes closed, slowly drank all the water and slowly opened her eyes. There was a hint of tiredness in his blue eyes. It seems that the second personality has receded. "Captain, Kiana is tired, her whole body aches, and it looks like it's cracked," Kiana said and slowly pursed her mouth, her eyes filled with mist. "Come, eat this, it'll be fine soon." Arthur buys a medicine from the store to heal his body and heal his wounds. "It's great, this warm feeling. I felt like my whole body was gradually regaining my strength." After taking the elixir, Kiana's eyes burst into a light of surprise. "Captain, Kiana, the meal is ready." Hearing Mei Yi's words, Kiana felt the protest that her stomach had been emitting. In an instant, he bounced off the sofa and rushed to the dining table. "Be careful." Seeing Kiana's speed at the moment, it seems that she has recovered as before. Arthur was relieved. It was not in vain that he spent tens of millions to buy a pill. Although the flowers are good, the monthly pass is more motivating. Although it is all data, but the monthly pass will display a red prompt in the background. It's pleasing to the eye. However, I don't force it, and I'm very grateful that everyone can support full booking. At present, There are fewer and fewer new additions, and the skipping is also very serious, alas. Cardiac congestion. Chapter 150 within the Navy headquarters. The news he had just gotten made Steelbone's face change dramatically. What did you say? Hearing a report from a Navy, Cyborg instantly stood up from his seat. The Draconians are known as the nobles of the world, and their activities have always been around the Chambord Islands. Of course, there are times to leave. You will only leave if you go on a tour of the field. But there must be people around to protect them in all directions. This time, their Navy did not receive the order, but their subordinates reported that they had received the news that the Draconians were leaving the Chambord Islands. Is there any deep meaning in this? Yes, Marshal Sora. Just this morning, the Draconians left the Chambord Islands, and the direction should be Ai-chan Island. Ai-chan Island. On the first day the island opened, Ai said a word. This kind of thing, even Arthur was a little unexpected. I thought it was just a joke about Ai, but I didn't expect it. Now, it's officially synonymous with that island. Damn, these unreassuring guys. Cyborg slammed his fist into the table in front of him, with an angry look on his face. Now that the Arthur pirates have not come out to take the initiative to find trouble, they should burn incense and worship the Buddha. Not to mention that Doflamingo promised to join the 7 martial seas of His Majesty. After that, they slowly have a good relationship with the Arthur pirates, and their navy will be reduced by a big hidden danger. Everything is moving in a good direction. And at this time, the celestial dragon people actually appeared in the sky. If there was any conflict between the Draconians and the Arthur pirates at this time, it would be the worst situation. Now, the situation has reached the point where there is no time to wait, and I immediately took out the phone bug. Warring States General, come over immediately. Soon, Sengoku walked in. Marshal Kong, what do you command? Under normal circumstances, Gang Gukong would not call him. Since he came here, there must have been a major incident. The Draconians have left the Chambord Islands, and I want you to immediately lead Lieutenant General Palyasolino, Lieutenant General Sakaski, and Lieutenant General Kazan to protect them. If you try as much as you can, prevent them from doing anything stupid to come out. Cyborg knew that his request was a bit excessive. Although the Draconians are all a bunch of waste, they have a lot of power. Not even he, the Marshal, let alone anyone else. Yes, Sengoku didn't ask why, nodded and immediately went into action. The yellow ape looked reluctant to get the news. Is it the job of guarding the Draconians? The pheasant's brow furrowed. The red dog on the side didn't say anything. The 3 of them carried a number of navies and immediately followed Sengoku on a warship and set off. At the same time, on the sea, a sailing ship with the symbol of the world government is moving slowly. On the deck, the Saint of Roswald was dressed in the costume of the Draconians and wore a bubble on his head. And beneath him was a tall slave. This slave was also a captain who roamed the seas, but was captured and auctioned. The slave wore a collar around his neck, and his long hair was draped so that it was impossible to see his face. There was a chain on the collar that spread upwards to the hands of Roswald's saint. When will we get to that island? As soon as Roswald's words fell, someone next to him immediately stood up. Lord Roswald, at our current speed, it will take 2 days. What? How long? Roswald frowned. I left the Chambord Islands because I wanted to see the amazing islands that everyone said. Nowadays, almost everything in the palace of the Holy Shrine of Roswald originates from the island of Ai-chan. Small dessert snacks, big bedside furniture. Roswald had never imagined before that a carpet could be so soft and that a bed could have so many functions. Those snacks can make people addicted one after the other. And all of these things have the same label. In addition, what worries Roswald the most are those legendary Titan mechs. All of them are tall and mighty, and if they can get one, they will be much more majestic than these slaves under him. Although I have only seen some images, I have already loved Roswald's saint. Pick up the speed immediately. I'm going to be there in a day. Roswald's saint shouted in a commanding tone. Yes, the subordinates immediately adjusted. This time, it was naturally their celestial dragon's personal guards who followed the Roswald saint out. CP9, the world government, is directly under the secret supreme spy agency. It is known as the strongest shield of the Draconians. Today, the CP9 organization has just changed its members, and its leader is named Spandam. He used to be the governor of CP5 and was the son of former CP9 chief Spandane, and inherited his father Spandan's position as the chief of CP9 in the world government. And on the warship on the other side. It was only at this time that the yellow ape and the others knew the purpose of summoning them urgently this time. What? I thought it was just an ordinary escort mission, but it turned out to be. When he first heard what the destination of the celestial dragon people was, the yellow ape suddenly became calm. He really should have asked before he got on this thief ship. It's impossible to return these days. The Draconians have never left the Shambord Islands. What happened this time? The pheasant's brow was also slightly wrinkled. This kind of initiative to provoke the Arthur pirates is really stupid. Warring States General, are you ready for battle? Akainu's question made everyone's eyes look at Sengoku. This determines their next move. If it really comes, last resort, Sengoku's words are not explained, but the meaning is already very obvious. If it really comes to the last resort, it is necessary to protect the safety of the Draconians, and when the time comes, it is inevitable to clash with the Arthur pirates. Alas, it's really going to be desperate again. Is the world government crazy? The yellow ape rubbed his head with a headache. Yes, is the world government crazy? This is the question that pops into most people's minds. They believe that the actions of the Draconians must have been tacitly approved by the world government. However, they have no right to interfere in this kind of thing, and they can only resign themselves to fate when the time comes, hoping that things will not develop to the worst level. Well, since that's the case, let's speed things up. Chapter 151 in the Endless Sea. Two warships walk side by side. It looks like an ordinary warship, but the logo on it is impossible to ignore. It turned out to be a sign of world government. Look at the people on the warship. They seem to be admirals. In addition to the admiral, 3 lieutenant generals actually came. When the surrounding sailboats saw this scene, they all showed shock. Admirals are not so easy to see on the sea. Only when a particularly significant event occurs, the figure of the admiral will haunt it. And the traces of the vice admiral are difficult for ordinary people to see. Not to mention 1 general and 3 lieutenant generals acting at the same time. At this moment, a figure appeared on the ship with the symbol of the world government. Spendam looked around, and the outline of the island loomed in the distance. Although the Roswald Saint asked to arrive in 1 day, the distance was too long, and their best efforts only shortened it by a few hours. Thankfully, Roswald didn't blame them for that. Glancing at the merchant ships around him and the warships next to him, Spandam pursed his lips in disdain and then walked into the cabin with a smile on his face. Alas, what a thankless errand. Seeing Spandam enter the cabin, the yellow ape sighed helplessly. About a day earlier, they had caught up with the sailing ship on which the Roswald Sanctuary was traveling. He wanted Roswald to return, but unfortunately the negotiations between the Sengoku failed. It looked like it was the island, and they had to go. The dignified admiral and the 3 lieutenant generals cowered in front of a Draconian. Even the members of the CP9 organization next to them gave them disdainful glances. But they can only force down the anger in their hearts. The Draco people represent the world government. Their navy is just a department of the world government. The official level crushed people to death. In the face of these celestial dragons, even if the steel bones are standing here, they are helpless, so they can only follow all the time. Don't complain anymore. Our next task is to protect the safety of the Draconians. It's impossible to say not to be angry. Anyone who is pointed at the nose can't stand a burst of ridicule. But helplessly, Sengoku could only take a deep breath and turn around and leave with an expressionless face. No wonder Lieutenant General Karp always says that it is not a good thing to be too high. I see. The yellow ape muttered, remembering what Karp had said. According to his qualifications and strength, it is more than enough for Karp to be promoted to a general. But after so many years, he has always been a lieutenant general with the task of hunting down the Roger pirates. At the headquarters of the Navy, there was very little time. I'm afraid it's just to prevent him from being given such a task. Lord Roswald, we're about to reach our destination. Spindam said respectfully to Roswald Saint, who was sitting cross-legged on the slave. Is it finally there? Let's go out and have a look. With a tug of the chain in his hand, the slave under him slowly crawled out of the cabin. The appearance of the Draco surprised the caravan that had been keeping an eye on the two warships. It turned out to be the nobility of the world. Looking at the unique costume of the Draconians on the Roswald Saint and the bubble cover on his head, an incredible voice came out of his throat. For a moment, he stood in place in shock. The Draco people used to be lucky enough to see only when they went to the Chambord Islands. I didn't expect to run into it here. Roswald glanced at the man who was staring at him not far away, and there was an eerie glint in his eyes. Unhurriedly, he took out the pistol at his waist. Boom! Shots rang out and fell in response. Poof! The sound of corpses lying on the deck made everyone around them react. Immediately put away his frightened expression and knelt on the deck. In the face of the celestial dragons, anyone must kneel down and not look directly. It's the rule. Seeing this scene, Roswald Saint smiled with satisfaction, blew the smoking spear, and inserted it back into his waist. On the way to the island, all the surrounding boats stopped. Make way for a wide waterway for the ships of the world government to pass. The deterrent power of the world government can be seen here. On the warship next to him, Sengoku's face was very solemn. With such a gesture, I really don't know what will happen if I land on a small island. It's a real headache. And at this moment, within the island, Doflamingo also got the news that the Draconians were coming. You mean the Draconians? Doflamingo stood up from his stool, his eyes shining with a strange light. Draconian, it was a title he had wanted so badly, because it represents the supreme right. And yet now, a smile tugged at the corners of Doflamingo's mouth, and he put his hands in his pockets as he walked towards the gate with a step that he didn't recognize. Since the celestial dragons are coming, we have to welcome them well. In the harbor, the warship docked safely. Roswald sat down on the slave and walked down slowly. The Sengoku and CP-9 members were protected on the left and right, and at the same time looked around with the gaze of Roswald Shung. Is this the strange island in the legend? It's all about the sea, letting the slave beneath him crawl forward slowly. Roswald Saint looked at the strange buildings around him. Flashes of light flashed across the building, and it looked beautiful even during the day. The bustling crowd on the side of the road even knelt down in a row. The people on this island are roughly made up of three parts: merchants, tourists, pirates. Faced with the Draconians, merchants and tourists are naturally afraid. Although the pirates looked unhappy, a general and 3 lieutenant generals next to him were real. No matter how reluctant you are, you have to make a show. However, as soon as these people knelt down, the Titan mecha that had been wandering in the crowd was particularly eye-catching. The Titan mech has always served as a guard on the island. Seeing these tall Titan mechas, Roswald's eyes lit up as if he had seen a beautiful woman. You, grab one for me. The Roswald Saint gave the order to Spandam, who had been beside him. Yes, Lord Roswald. Spindam didn't hesitate and immediately nodded in agreement. But he didn't do it himself. In fact, Spandam's strength is pitiful, and some ordinary people who are stronger may not be able to fight. Look, he grabbed that big guy. Here, the superior commands the subordinate, and the subordinates are under the command, which is really vividly expressed. Chapter 152, Hyperion flew slowly in the sky. After a few crazy days on the Sky Island, Arthur finally decided to return for a while. Captain, what are you doing? Sitting on the couch after breakfast, Kiana stuck to her like a kitten, sitting next to him gently, blinking his big, curious eyes. The blue and gold pupils gave Kiana a strange look. Since the 300 rounds of the battle in the imaginary space, now, from time to time, the lawyer's personality will run out. But he no longer has full control over Kiana's body like before. And as it is now, 2 consciousnesses coexist. I'm looking to see what fun toys I can buy you next time. Holding Kiana, a smile appeared on Arthur's lips. I hate it, Captain. Kiana gave Arthur a blank look, a shy look on her face. It doesn't seem to mean to refuse. This made Arthur's eyes light up. Originally, it was just talking, but now it seems to be a drama. Captain, be careful if you break it. That's your loss. Rita passed by, and shook her head helplessly. Why does it seem that things are going a little wrong? Don't worry, my taste isn't that heavy. Youth and cuteness are Captain Ben's favorite. It's like Seer, Arthur said, reaching out and grabbing Seal next to him. Huh, Captain, is there something wrong? Seer turned around and tilted her head slightly, with a faint smile on her face, and at this moment it seemed that her whole body was radiating light. It's nothing, you've healed me, Arthur said and hugged Sheer, rubbing and rubbing. Okay, good. Good job. The smile on Seal's face grew a little stronger, and she gently patted Arthur on the back. After getting tired of each other for a while, Arthur finally got down to business. Naturally, I wasn't really looking for a toy or something like that. Just now, Arthur accidentally clicked on the system warehouse and discovered a shocking fact. In addition to the Titans, there were character fragments and the like in each previous draw. And Fu Hua's character fragments have reached as many as 29. As long as you have another one, you can craft a character card. At present, Arthur's 10 companies have not yet gathered, and they can only draw 8 times at most. Arthur was thinking about whether to give it a chance with those 8 chances. According to his calculations, the odds are quite high. What's there to hesitate about? It's just a character shard missing. Am I going to be so unlucky? Arthur didn't believe his luck could be so bad. It can't be 10 times in a row, of course. It can only be drawn one at a time. Open the system interface and click one replenishment. A flash of light flashed, revealing the item obtained. Divine Machine, Heimdall, a giant mecha with blue lines all over its body. Its power is much stronger than that of ordinary Titan mechs. If he had gotten such a mecha in normal times, Arthur would still be a little excited. But now his expectations are high, and such a mecha is only a glance. Then tap replenish again. 3 times in a row, all of them were Titan mechs, and Arthur's heart sank all at once. It can't really be so unlucky. Thinking in his heart, the movement in his hand did not stop, and he clicked again. Fu Hua, character fragment times 3. The small character fragment made Arthur suddenly feel ecstatic. The wrinkled face immediately stretched into a smile. Mate, did you see that? Captain is so strange. One moment with a sad face, and the other with an extremely excited face. Next to her, Kiana, who had been staring at Arthur's face, whispered to Mei, perhaps, Captain is thinking of something interesting. Seeing Arthur smile at the moment, Mei's face showed more than a hint of a smile. It seems that my luck has not yet reached home. The rest of the lottery times, Arthur finished all at once. A shiny card once again took over Arthur's attention. Fu Hua character card times 1. Looking blankly at the character card that was still spinning in front of him, Arthur didn't know how to describe his mood at this moment. Maybe it's only when I discuss life with Bronya for the first time that I have such excitement. The surprise really overwhelmed me. Open the system warehouse, find Fu Hua's character card and click to use. Immediately open the Valkyrie warehouse, and after Rita, Mei, Kiana, Bronya, and Sheer, Fu Hua's image appeared. There were previously a total of 29 character shards, plus the 3 that were obtained. 32 30ths upgradable, without hesitation. I immediately clicked on promotion. A B-class Valkyrie became an A-class Valkyrie. A total of 4 forms have been unlocked. Valkyrie Xuanyu, Shadow Knight Moon Wheel, White Knight Deacon, Fog Capital Xuanyu. Opened Fu Hua's personal interface and viewed various information about his body. After watching quietly for a while, Arthur clicked the battle button. After all, no matter how beautiful the screen is not as shocking as the real person. Countless bright lights appeared in front of Arthur, gradually condensing, outlining a graceful form. The light gradually intensified, then slowly dissipated. Dressed in a blue martial arts costume, his gray hair was spread out and tied into 2 small pigtails. The closed eyes opened, and the emerald eyes were filled with meticulous seriousness and seriousness. Valkyrie Fu Hua is willing to work for the captain. The fists were hugged, and the voice was crisp and loud. You're welcome, Fu Hua. Just when Arthur was planning to cultivate a relationship with the symbol, Ai's voice suddenly sounded. Captain, we just detected some people entering our island. And the people on the island reacted so strangely, they all knelt down. Ai said that a picture appeared in front of Arthur. The one in the picture is when Roswald Saint has just entered the port. Hey, really? Is he the so-called emperor? Seeing that there was a lot of fun, Kiana and the others also gathered around. The nobles of the world, the celestial dragons. Rita glanced at it and said lightly, "Yes, they're the nobles of the world who have the highest power, the celestial dragons." Arthur nodded, a playful smile on his lips. "I didn't expect them to leave the Chambord Islands and come here. Captain, you see he is going to do our Titan mechs against him." Seeing Loki gradually walking towards the Titan mecha, Kiana immediately screamed, "Fu Hua, can I leave it to you?" It just so happened that Arthur wanted to see Fu Hua's skills. It was a captain who worked for the captain. Fu Hua nodded, turned, and walked out. Around the body, pieces of armor emerged. On the island, Lu Qi, who heard the order, did not hesitate too much and walked towards the Titan mecha. Luki, whose full name is Rob Lucy, was born in the Great Voyage and was trained by the government from a young age, joining CP9 at the age of 13. A kingdom that was once a member of the world government has been invaded by pirates. 500 soldiers of the kingdom were defeated and captured, and the pirates used 500 soldiers to blackmail the king. The world government sent Luki to settle the matter. Luki infiltrated the warehouse where the pirates were holding the 500 soldiers and killed all 500 soldiers by himself. When the pirates rushed to the warehouse upon hearing the news, there was only one teenager standing on top of a mountain-high pile of corpses. Enraged, the pirates immediately opened fire on Luki, who was shot 5 times in the back, and the 5 scars became his mark. At that time, Luki was only wounded by the skin due to the iron in his hands, and he walked out of the smoke after being shot and immediately ran towards the stunned pirates. Lifting the pirate leader with his left hand and poking many bloody holes in him with a finger gun with his right hand, he solved the crisis of this kingdom alone. This incident vividly shows his coldness and ruthlessness. In the distance, Doflamingo also rushed over at this time. Seeing that Lu Qi seemed to be about to make a move on the Titan mecha, just as he wanted to stop it, a figure fell from the sky. Black is supplemented by purple armor to wrap the whole body, and the serious little face looks a little heroic. Shadow Knight, Moonwheel. It seems that we don't need to do anything. Pray for this hapless draconian. Doflamingo looked at Hubelian hovering above and muttered to himself. Chapter 153, Wide Road. Except for a few people who were still standing, the others fell to their knees. Looking at the ground, he didn't dare to raise his head at all. However, at this moment, a loud roar not only made people can't help but peek at it. In the middle of Lu Qi and the Titan mecha, a figure descended from the sky. Fu Hua was wearing the Shadow Knight Moon Wheel and slowly stood up from a half-squatting position. The whole body is black, supplemented by purple armor, and Fu Hua's body is tightly wrapped. There was a touch of seriousness on the little face that didn't smile. "Who are you?" Lu Qi frowned slightly at the man who suddenly appeared in front of him. "Inxia Fu Hua. I have come to stop your further actions on the orders of the captain." Fu Hua said that his right leg stretched forward, and he was ready to attack. "What are you still doing? Don't keep Lord Roswald waiting." Spandam, who was behind him, couldn't help but shout when he saw Luki standing motionless. Fu Hua, next to the Roswald Saint. Sengoku saw this figure falling from the sky, and there was a hint of doubt in his eyes. I couldn't help but look at the yellow ape next to me. If there is anyone who knows the most about this small island, it is the yellow ape. After all, it is also the one who has spent several days here. However, seeing the inquiring gaze of the warring states, the yellow ape shook his head in confusion. He is not very clear about Fu Hua's existence. Is it strange that the Navy's intelligence is getting so bad now? Nowadays, there are many people who are planted by the Navy on the island. But now suddenly there's a person they had never heard of. What do the people in the intelligence organization eat? Even Sengoku is in a bad mood at the moment. Hearing Spendam's urging behind him, Luki's eyes narrowed slightly. Although he smelled a hint of danger from the person in front of him, he didn't take his absolute confidence in his strength to heart. "Captain, doesn't it matter if Fu Hua is alone?" Within Huberia, Arthur was watching the live broadcast through a screen. It's just enough to deal with a hairy boy, which is more than enough for the current Fu Hua. Arthur has absolute confidence in Fu Hua. So let's wait and see. As you can see from the screen, Liu Qi finally can't help but take the lead. 6 styles shaving. Continuously stepping on the ground dozens of times in an instant generates a strong reaction force and uses the explosive speed generated by the reaction force to move. From the enemy's eyes, it looked like it had disappeared. Seeing Liu Qi's figure disappear, Fu Hua's eyes were slightly condensed, but he stood in place without any movement. In the next second, the figure took a step to the left. Brush! Several cold rays appeared on the side, only a little distance. The difference is a millimeter, and the difference is 1,000 miles. I dodged it. There was a hint of surprise in Liu Qi's eyes. His speed is also one of the best in the Navy. I didn't expect it. The first blow was easily dodged by the enemy. The missed blow made Liu Qi's gaze more solemn. There's a very strong opponent in front of him. The body rose violently in midair, and a leg whip was thrown directly at Fu Hua. 6 styles, Arashiko. Attack your opponent with a high-speed and powerful kick that unleashes a sharp slash wave from the air current, which can easily split your target in half. In advance, you have to be able to hit. Shadow Night Moon Wheel gives Fu Hua super high mobility. Facing 2 attacks, Fu Hua has already gained a full understanding of the enemy's speed. Looking at the oncoming shock wave, his body bent slightly, like a cheetah ready to attack. So, in a certain moment, rush out in an instant, rubbing shoulders with the shock wave above. At this moment, Liu Qi fell from midair to the ground, just landed and didn't stand firmly. A calm voice came into my ears. Inch heart fist method, inch strength landslide. Boom! Liu Qi only felt a tremendous power pour into his heart. The powerful force exploded directly within him. Burst! Standing in place, a mouthful of blood immediately gushed out. And in front of him, Fu Hua had retreated to his original position. The posture is erect, and there's not a trace of fluctuation in the gaze. One move knocked Liu Qi until he vomited blood, which made Spandam's angry face distort a little. Is so powerful on weekdays. Why is it so useless at a critical moment? You know, Lord Roswald is still watching here. None of the members of CP9 are opponents. This man's strength is not weak. The pheasant looked at Fu Hua, but his gaze did not fluctuate too much. At the present level, he is not afraid. Fu Hua is so powerful, he actually defeated his opponent with one move. Watching the live broadcast, Kiana, they suddenly let out a burst of cheers. Don't rejoice too early. Your opponent won't give up so easily. As Arthur said, Lucky would not just admit defeat. Shaving. The figure flashed and instantly came to Fu Hua's face, put his fingers together, and poked forward. Finger guns. By concentrating the energy of the whole body on the fingers, and then stabbing the hardened fingers at ultra-high speed, the power is comparable to that of a bullet, and it can easily penetrate the human body. Very good power, but Fu Hua stretched out his hands gently, and in the eyes of outsiders, he just scratched it. But Liu Qi felt an irresistible pull that caused his attack to deviate to one side. How is that possible? With disbelief, the finger gun slashed past Fu Hua's side, not hitting a single bit. Leveraged the strength to fight the wind. Seeing Fu Hua slap at him, Liu Qi's face changed. He felt the attack just now most clearly, and with his physical fitness, he couldn't withstand several attacks. Iron. Make the body as hard as iron, and use it for defense. Boom! A dull sound echoed through the empty streets, and Liu Qi's back was visible to the naked eye, and a huge shockwave spread outward. Liu Qi's pupils slowly dilated. His face gradually became distorted, and he opened into his mouth, and a trace of blood flew out. The body flew upside down like a cannonball, slamming into the wall behind it. Fortunately, there's a protective cover on the wall, otherwise I am afraid that I will directly hit a big hole. Poof! Liu Qi, who was lying on the ground, suffered this blow, and he had not completely lost his combat effectiveness. Slowly straining on all 4 limbs, try to get up. At the same time, the whole body has changed. Leopard prints appeared all over the body. Limbs became thicker, and sharp claws gradually formed. Animal, cat, leopard. Animal-based devil fruit abilities are far more resistant and resilient than ordinary people. Is this guy Ziokiang? Can he still stand up? Kiana blinked in confusion. It's just a dying struggle. Fu Hua. And finish him off. Hearing Arthur's voice in the communicator, Fu Hua nodded faintly. At the same time, some changes have occurred in the armor of the body. The high concentration of compressed particles in the power furnace is released at the maximum rate, and the 2 sets of flying blade thrusters on the waist are fully deployed, and the armor of the whole body will also turn orange-red, like a total lunar eclipse. In this state, the armor's power output will increase dramatically, and the speed that it is already proud of will reach its extreme, approaching the enemy with lightning speed, followed by a storm of blows. Luki, who had completely transformed into an orc, was about to let out a roar, but a figure was faster than him. Fu Hua. In an instant, he came to Lu Qi's face. His fists clenched, and the storm of attacks bombarded Lu Qi's body. From the outside, only a shadow could be seen flashing back and forth around Luki. Even the appearance of the shadow became blurred. Only a dull sound could be heard echoing back and forth, which seemed to be mixed with the sound of bones shattering. Lu Qi's body was instantly beaten into the sky, and in mid-air, a figure was already waiting here. Open the sky. Rumble. The shock wave spread outward, and the clouds as far as the eye could see were shaken away. A figure fell from the sky like a meteor and fell in front of everyone's eyes. At this moment, the audience was silent. Chapter 154, a figure fell from the sky like a meteor, slamming heavily on the ground, like a puddle of mud. Life and death were unknown. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't believe their eyes. For others against the world government, that is basically a death sentence. As for the Navy, it seems that they have just underestimated this opponent. If you don't make a move, it's enough, and if you make a shot, it's a must-kill. The members of CP9 are not very strong, but they're also among the best. However, in Fu Hua's hands, he was like a baby, and he had no power to fight back. Lu Qi, seeing this, the other members of CP9 suppressed the shock in their hearts and rushed over with an arrow. But instead of checking on Lu Qi's physical condition, they attacked Fu Hua instead. Erasure. Finger guns. As a member of CP9, even if you're not a devil fruit ability, you have Master the Navy 6. However, such an attack may be powerful for ordinary people, and it is still not enough to face Fu Hua. Inch Heart Fist Method. Inch Strength, Trembling Wind. Death, Waning Moon. Before the rushing bodies approached Fu Hua, they heard a faint sound echoing around them, and they were immediately enveloped by countless fist shadows. Bang, bang, bang. The rushing figure flew towards the surroundings at a faster speed like a goddess, scattering flowers. Hiss. The sound of gasping cold air rang out one after another on the street. In an instant, the air on the entire street became a little thinner. One hit was not enough, and this time I knocked down 7 or 8 in a row. Everyone looked at Fu Hua's gaze, and in addition to awe, there was also a trace of sympathy or pity. For them, there's only one end to disobeying the world government, The Rocks pirates, who were as strong as them, were also destroyed by order of the world government. Not to mention other people. Waste, it's all a bunch of waste. Looking at the CP9 members scattered on the ground, Spandam jumped to his feet angrily. These people are really rubbish. So many people can't even beat a single person. Fu Hua, you are so powerful. A voice of surprise seemed a little out of place with its surroundings. Next to him, Arthur and Shiran walked over, and Kiana came to Fu Hua with an excited face, with little stars in her eyes. The opponent is also strong, but only brute force. Fu Hua shook his head lightly as he spoke, looking at Arthur. Captain, is it okay to do this? For the members of CP9, Fu Hua has always been a dead hand. Well done, Fu Hua. Arthur nodded, habitually raising his hand and patting Fu Hua's head. This is a gesture that Arthur often does to Kiana. Fu Hua was slightly stunned. A light flashed in his eyes, but he didn't dodge. He just stood there and looked at Arthur quietly. Receiving a colder response, Arthur retracted his palm in a curt. Obviously, like Kiana, Bronya, and Shur, They all responded more enthusiastically. Arthur's pirates. Is she a new member of the Arthur Pirates? Seeing Arthur appear, Sengoku showed a solemn look in their eyes. Whether it is Sengoku or Pheasant, they have more or less dealt with Arthur a few times. There is a clear understanding of Arthur's own bottomless strength. However, the Draconians, who have always been arrogant, will not figure out the situation. Seeing Arthur, they actually stood in front of him and chatted with each other, completely ignoring his existence. This caused a raging anger to rise in Roswald's eyes. Just like he did with those ordinary people before, he took out the pistol on his waist and pulled the trigger on Arthur. Boom! The crisp sound of gunfire echoed through the streets. This made Sengoku's face change instantly. His eyes only focused on the Arthur pirates, but he forgot that there was another master next to him who liked to cause trouble. However, at this moment, it is too late to stop it. Brush! A cold chill flashed, and the bullets that flew in were split in half. Sneak attacks are not the upbringing that you should have as a world noble. Rita's eyes narrowed slightly, and the scythe in her hand exuded a cold glow. Although it was the middle of the day, everyone felt the chill emanating from Rita's body. Icy chilling. Damn it! You dare to disobey the orders of the nobles of the world. For the saint of Roswald, it is normal to give a person death. However, the person he wanted to kill did not die, and it was like a bolt from the blue to him. Anger suddenly stood up from the slave's body, and his face was distorted a little by anger. Stupid guy, still provocative. For Roswald Shung's act of death, Sengoku also secretly cursed. But he did not forget his duty, and took a step forward to stand in front of Roswald's saint. And the pheasants were not idle, protecting the left and right of the Roswald saint. Do you think I can't do anything about protecting this idiot so tightly? Arthur patted Rita on the shoulder, motioning for him to put away his weapon and look at Sengoku in front of him. Calculate the time. We may not have met for a long time. I don't know if your strength has improved enough. A faint sentence shocked the people around him. Listening to the meaning of Arthur's words, it seems that he had fought with the Admiral before. Perhaps not only fought, but also gained the upper hand. Progress is naturally there, Sengoku said, and activated the power of the devil fruit. The golden light flashed all over his body, and his body gradually grew larger, completely blocking the Roswald saint behind him. Progress is true, but it is limited. He could never figure out how Arthur had such terrifying powers. What are you still doing in a daze? Take down the man in front of me at once. Roswald couldn't stand still and pointed at Arthur and yelled loudly. Seeing the smile on the corner of Arthur's mouth, Sengoku secretly said that it was not good. All are allowed to. The voice was just halfway out when his eyes suddenly widened in horror. Between him and Arthur, the Saint of Roswald appeared there at some point. The whole body seems to be bound by an invisible force, levitated in midair and struggling. Opening your mouth as if to make some sound, but to no avail. The nobles of the world, the celestial dragons. I wonder what the reaction would be to kill a world government. The words of understatement slowly echoed. Arthur, don't be impulsive. Do you really want to be the enemy of the world government? There was no time to think about how the Roswald Saint had suddenly escaped from their protection. Sengoku was really afraid that Arthur would have a little more strength, and this delicate celestial dragon man would die. Any suggestion would be accepted, so that part has been modified. Since it has been modified, in order to avoid following the trend, as soon as the pronunciation comes in and sees the comments, it has been deleted. The comments that have just been posted will also be deleted in the evening, and since they have been changed, there is no need to continue to dwell on this kind of thing. Chapter 155, Arthur, do you really want to be an enemy of the world government? Although it is not clear what happened, Sengoku knew. The life of this celestial dragon man in front of him was in Arthur's thoughts. At this time, there was no time to scruple in the scruples of levitating in midair, waving his limbs wildly, and opening his mouth but not making any sound. Sengoku's eyes were fixed on Arthur. I hope that through the name of the world government, Arthur will not dare to act rashly. Enemies of the world government, although I don't want such a troublesome thing to happen either. But the world government handed me a knife in his own hand, and it would be rude for me not to accept it. Don't tell me that this Draco man came without the tacit approval of the world government. A glint flashed in Arthur's eyes. This made the warring states on the opposite side speechless for a while. This thought had flashed through their minds before, and the reality is exactly what Arthur said. The island's presence has seriously threatened trade elsewhere. And the main thing is that the island does not pay heavenly gold to the world government at all. This is something that the world government cannot bear. That's why it's like this. Let the Roswald Saint have a little thing to do on this island, and their world government will have an excuse to interfere. Sometimes that's how it is. No matter how bad an excuse is, you have to have one. As Arthur spoke, a yellow light flashed in front of him. It's a yellow ape. No matter how reluctant he was, he couldn't let the celestial dragons have an accident in front of him. Using his super speed, he wants to save Roswald Saint. Correct. Thundered. Rumble. A huge pillar of thunder descended from the sky, engulfing the yellow ape before it could reach the Roswald Saint. May is not going to let any of you get in the way of the captain. In the midst of the thunder, the lawgiver of thunder appeared in the eyes of everyone with the aura of destroying all beings. And within that huge thunder pillar, countless yellow points of light dispersed, condensing the body of the yellow ape beside it. Such a terrible force, as if it was about to tear my elementalized body apart. The yellow ape hurriedly hid behind the warring states with a palpitation. When elementalized, the body becomes the most basic light particle. It stands to reason that this form of the yellow ape is ineffective against him, except for the sea tower stone and domineering. However, the tyrannical thunder and lightning almost wiped out his light particles with the power of destruction. After holding on for a while, he immediately gave up and withdrew. Well, since you want it so much, I'll give it to you, but it's going to be picked up, Arthur said with a slight push forward. Suspended in midair, the Roswald Saint slowly floated in the direction of the warring states. How easy to talk to. Arthur's actions stunned the Sengoku group. But no matter what, as long as the safety of Roswald Saint can be guaranteed. Seeing the Roswald Saint gradually approaching, Sengoku wanted to reach out and catch it. However, the fingers just touched. The body of the Roswald Saint slowly grew larger like a balloon. At last, boom, it exploded and turned into a pool of flesh. Seeing this scene, Sengoku's pupils slowly widened, revealing an incredible look. I watched a small black dot appear in front of me. The distorted space rotated clockwise, sucking the puddle of flesh into it and disappearing. The Roswald Saint disappeared before everyone's eyes, as if it had never appeared. Whether it was the Navy or the person kneeling next to him, the expression at this moment became very exciting. The face that changed back and forth revealed a lot of emotions. Surprised, frightened, confused, incredible. All kinds of emotions appear on the face at the same time, as if it were a clown. It's over. We're all going to be done now. The Draconians turned out to be just I. A voice of despair, disbelief, rang out in the crowd. Witnessing the death of the Draco people is a sin in itself. They can already imagine how much fury the world government will erupt. Wipe out all the people on this island. When the time comes, they won't be able to run alone. So it's none of my business to let you take it well. Arthur spread his hands innocently, and the corners of his mouth hooked up a touch of coldness. Flaunting his might on his small island, the dragons are really in the wrong place these days. Yeah, a roar like a beast roared from the mouth of the warring states. Raising his head, his eyes flashed with anger. I was tricked like this. The main thing is that the Draconians died in front of him. The momentum of the warring states gradually rose, and the armed color gradually appeared. In the face of Arthur, he will not have any luck. Only by doing your best can you have the slightest possibility of victory. Red emu, yellow ape, and green pheasant. After a brief shock, each of them used the power of the devil fruit. The Draconians died in front of them, and it was impossible for them to remain indifferent. It's time to clean up the battlefield again. The icy aura spread outward from Rita's body, and pieces of armor condensed around her. Blue Knight, Moon Soul. Behind the armor, a huge humanoid phantom gradually appeared, Silver Moon. The ghostly humanoid was a silent, grim reaper, fighting as its blades danced in the dim moonlight, coating the corpses of foes with a relentless hoarfrost. Would you like to see my powers? The lawgiver of the void hovers in the void, and behind him the spear of the void, which pierces through space, is poised to strike. Danger level S. Bronya automatically chooses the next course of action and destroys all the enemies. In the form of the lawgiver of reason, Bronya stood in the huge palm of the heavily armed rabbit, suspended in midair. Seal will work hard, too. Want to enjoy the baptism of blood? The two pairs of eyes, one blue and one red, made Shear's originally weak little face look a little bewitching at the moment. Behind Arthur, all the figures have the power to destroy the world. At this time, Sengoku also gradually calmed down from his anger. Even if the opposite lineup is one-on-one, it doesn't seem that they can resist. His face became unusually ugly at this moment. Sengoku. Arthur saw the warring states on the opposite side and said slowly, "You should be glad that this is my island. If there is a battle on this small island, it will inevitably cause damage to the surrounding buildings." This is not what Arthur wants to see. So from the very beginning, the rule that no fighting was allowed on this island. Arthur said as the overlord color on his body rose to the sky. In the sky, dark clouds quickly converged, and a huge whirlpool appeared between the thunder and thunder. It's as if this is the center of the world. And in this overlord color, Arthur is like a demon from the abyss. Just one glance at each other, and the soul is sucked into it. Powerful, terrifying, irresistible. One by one, the words came to everyone's mind. Poof, puff. The momentum enveloped the entire island, and one by one the figures lost consciousness and fell to the ground. Doflamingo looked at the figure that rose infinitely in his heart. Slowly knelt down. Chapter 156, Inside the Manor on the Island. Captain, is it really okay to let them leave like this? Rita walked over with a cup of tea and asked Arthur, who was sitting on the couch. An hour ago, facing Arthur and them, Sengoku's last choice was to retreat. After this hour, the unconscious people on the island also woke up one after another. But the first thing they did was evacuate the island. The Draconians died on this island. One can imagine what will happen to the island next. Staying here any longer is an act of death. The once bustling island suddenly became much more deserted. Taking the teacup handed over by Rita and taking a sip, Arthur said slowly, "Conflict with the world government has long been expected by me. Yes, at the time of the initial intention of building this island. This matter is already doomed. The cake of the entire pirate world is so big. If one person eats more, others will inevitably eat less. And the world government, which has always enjoyed the big cake exclusively, will definitely not share it with Arthur so generously." As he spoke, he pulled Rita over and let her sit in his arms. Gently fiddling with her hair, she continued, "It's a great opportunity, an opportunity to declare to the world that the island is independent. Yes, Arthur had that purpose. I believe that it will not be long before the world government will inevitably attack him. When the time comes, he will really show the power he has and declare independence. Now, it's time for this step as well." It turns out that the captain thinks so, and Rita is taught. Rita nodded lightly and whispered into Arthur's ear, "Captain, Fu Hua seems to be struggling because of something. You can go and help." Seeing a mysterious smile on Rita's face, Arthur raised his eyebrows slightly. "Don't worry, Captain. Rita won't frame you. You can ask Bronya and Seal about the specific situation," Rita said with an unfathomable smile and left. "Is there anything going on that I don't know about?" Arthur stood up from the couch in confusion and walked over to Bronya and Seal. It seems that the two of them have been together since just now, and they don't know what to say. Ciel, Bronya has discovered that the captain is a liar. Bronya and Seal sat across from each other around a small round table. The sound of the incident caused Arthur to stop and hide to the side, a blank look on his face. When did he become a liar again? Confused, Arthur continued to listen, and soon saw Bronya looking down at the budding lotus flower. Before, the captain said that it would get bigger slowly. But when I saw Fu Hua today, I understood. It turns out that even if you grow up, lotus flowers don't necessarily bloom. After finishing speaking, Bronya patted her little head with some annoyance, looking dejected. Well, that's what the captain said to Seal. Seal nodded in agreement, a hint of memory in her eyes. At that time, the captain said that if you fertilize a lot every day and take good care of it, you will soon grow at a speed that is visible to the naked eye. But Sheer couldn't help but raise her right hand and touch it. Nothing has changed at all. As he spoke, his mouth slowly pursed, his face full of unhappiness. Bronya and Seal looked up at each other and sighed. Ugh. According to their observations, although Arthur doesn't say it, he definitely likes to be bigger. After all, every time I play with it for so long, I can't put it down. And here they are. You don't have to play if you want to. I felt the bones all at once. Arthur on the side was really embarrassed when he heard it. But what does this have to do with Fu Hua? Thinking of what Rita said, Arthur's eyes flashed with confusion. Ahem. He coughed lightly twice and walked out slowly. Bronya, Seal, what are you talking about? Arthur pretended not to care and sat down next to him, picking up the tea in front of him. Captain, you've heard it for so long. Haven't you heard? Bronya looked at her with disdain. Ahem. Ahem. A sentence made Arthur choke at once. Hurriedly put down the teacup in his hand. Captain, are you all right? Seeing Arthur's pained expression, Seal gently patted Arthur on the back. It's okay, it's much better, Arthur said as he picked up Seal and whispered. You really don't have to worry about it all. You'll grow up after a while. Hearing Arthur's words, Seal tilted her head and whispered, Captain, you don't need to comfort us. Seal and Sister Bronya have come to terms with reality. After all, there are living examples in front of us. I just hope the captain doesn't hate us. As she spoke, a mist flashed in Seal's big eyes. How could I hate you? It's too late to like you. Oh good, don't cry. If you cry, your face will not be beautiful. Arthur lay his little face with his hands, his index finger wiping the tears that were about to spread. Suddenly stunned slightly. The living example you just said is... Naturally, it's Fu Hua. Bronya sighed again. Fu Huadu has grown up, but he is still small, so you don't have to comfort us anymore. Captain, hearing this, Arthur suddenly had a bad premonition. You won't go directly to Fu Hua. The corners of Arthur's mouth twitched slightly. Yes, Captain, we asked Fu Hua. Has she been like us since she was a child? What about Fu Hua's answer? The corners of Arthur's eyes jumped fiercely. I was quite curious about Fu Hua's answer. Fu Hua didn't say anything, just looked a little depressed and returned to his room. Seal said, well, at this moment, Arthur finally understood what had happened. I'm going to run some errands, and I'll be back soon. Picking up Seal and placing her on a stool next to her, Arthur quickly stood up and walked towards Fu Hua's room. Captain, where have you been? Seal tilted her head, curiosity in her eyes. Maybe it's to verify whether it will make Fu Hua grow up. Ignoring the speculation of the two people behind him, Arthur stood at Fu Hua's door and sorted out his mood. Words of comfort flashed through my mind. In the end, it seems that everything is hurtful. Forget it. Let's go take a look first, Arthur said as he pushed the door open and entered. However, the scene in front of him made him stand directly in place. Fu Hua was tearing open the hood and stuffing something inside. Time seemed to freeze at this moment. For a second, 2 seconds, the two looked at each other. Seeing Fu Hua's face gradually turn red from surprise to anger, Arthur immediately closed the door with great interest. Boom! It's an amazing sight. Lean against the wall next to you. The moving arc flashed through my mind. Arthur found that Fu Hua was not as unremarkable as it seemed. The door opened, and Fu Hua walked out with his head down. Captain, you see it. Fu Hua raised his head with an angry look in his eyes. Well, no, I didn't see anything. Arthur nodded subconsciously, and then quickly shook his head in denial. The ship long, a voice that seemed to come out of between his teeth came out of Fu Hua's mouth. I saw Fu Hua clenching his fists, standing on his toes, staring at Arthur tightly. Well, I did see that. Actually, Fu Hua, you don't have to pad that. Arthur was halfway through speaking when he felt a surge of murderous energy and quickly shut up. Even the captain of the ship is unforgivable. Inch heart fist method. Help. Two figures chased each other through the hall. Rita looked at this scene with a smile and let out a sigh of emotion. Chapter 157. As the people on the island gradually left, the news of the death of the Draconians also passed on the sea. This made the sea, which had calmed down a little, suddenly ripple. The Whitebeard pirates. The huge sailboat was sailing on the sea, and Whitebeard looked at the newspaper in his hand. Killing the celestial dragons in front of so many people, I'm afraid the world government won't give up. As for Arthur's guts, Whitebeard has truly seen it this time. In front of the public, especially the Navy, who was also on the scene, they killed the Draco people like this. This is directly challenging the bottom line of the world government. Dad, I'm afraid the world government will make quite a big move in the future. Marco stood aside and nodded affirmatively. That's inevitable. Whitebeard nodded and continued. The nobility of the world is equivalent to the face of the celestial dragons. If one is killed and indifferent, it will be too unprestigious. Whitebeard said as he looked pensive and stood up from his wide chair. After thinking for a long time, he smiled. Let's go and join in the fun. The Moby Dick gradually changed course under Whitebeard's order. Flying pirates. After the Battle of Whitewall, the Golden Lion Sky pirates were wiped out. Although the losses are heavy, they are not yet to the point of no return. As long as he is here, he can set up a flying pirate group again at any time. After such a long period of cultivation and recuperation, the current Flying Sky Pirates are even larger than before. Got into trouble with the world government. The Golden Lion held the newspaper in both hands, looked at the contents, and laughed. He was full of hatred for Arthur, and he fooled him and hurt him again and again. In the end, he directly made him lose all his belongings. Fight, fight, it's better to all be dead. The malice between the words was released mercilessly. No, I can't. Suddenly, the Golden Lion frowned and paced back and forth in the room with a frown. I don't know if those idiots in the Navy can kill Arthur, or if I'll take care of it myself. I heard that an island was also built, and this time your island will be completely destroyed in the sea. The Golden Lion didn't know what to think and laughed wantonly. The big M1 pirates. At this moment, Charlotte Lingling has established a family-centered pirate group. The power is spread over many islands in the New World, and it is still a hegemonic posture. At this moment, from a room shaped like a cake, a loud roar was heard. Cake, I want cake. What does it smell like? I'm going to eat real cakes. Loud yells were mixed with figures flying out of the room. Listening to Charlotte Lingling's roar, the souls around her trembled. Mom, this cake is definitely something you like. Perispero came to Charlotte Lingling with a palm-sized cake in his hand. Charlotte Lingling's massive body bent, and the scent of the cake made her nose flutter. I want egg cake. He grabbed the cake in Perispero's hand and threw it into his mouth. The angry gaze disappeared in an instant. The surrounding dark clouds cleared in an instant. That's the taste? Come on. Mom, the Arthur pirates you're concerned about have recently had another piece of news. For the Arthur pirates, Charlotte Lingling has been paying attention. For example, the dessert she eats, 9 achievements, is purchased from Arthur's Island. I can't help it. It's so delicious. It's hard to swallow anything else. Hearing the Arthur pirates, Auntie's face changed instantly. The smile on his face disappeared, and a dark cloud filled the air. According to our information, because Arthur killed the world nobles, the Draconians, in public, the world government issued a demon-slaying order. In just one sentence, all the movements of the two parties were finished. MOM. Just let them. Let's fight. Charlotte Lingling laughed twice and suddenly began to sing. The surrounding homets moved into action in an instant, and a band was formed in the blink of an eye. Bursts of singing echoed out of the room. And at the same time, the Roger pirates. No, Captain, Bucky has a high fever and can't stay on the ship at all. In one of the cabins, Bucky lay on the bed with a flushed face, the fever that had left him in a semi-comatose state. It's at this time, Roger's brow furrowed. The history of the road signs has all been gathered, and they are about to go to the final island. Unexpectedly, at this time, Bucky suddenly had a high fever, and he couldn't go away. Captain Roger, I'll stay and take care of Bucky, and you can keep sailing. At this time, Shanks volunteered to stand up. No, I can't. Roger thought for a moment, and shook his head in refusal. Bucky was his crew. How could he just drop it like that? Captain Roger. Shanks yelled. We've been through so many dangers to get to this point. How can we stop here? You go ahead, and when Bucky is well, we'll catch up with him by boat. That's right. That's the last step. Roger's gaze swept over the crew members around him. These people have fought with him until now. Okay, Shanks, you got to take care of Bucky. While passing through an island, Shanks disembarks with a sick Bucky and watches the Oro Jackson leave. Captain, you must be safe. Shanks took a deep breath and helped Bucky to leave when a newspaper flew towards him. This is... Shanks' eyes widened as he looked at the contents of the newspaper. Headquarters of the Navy. Countless navies were all in action at this moment. Huge warships stopped in the harbor. The Navy stood around the battleship like ants. Demon Slayer Order. This is an order given by the world government. The Demon Slaying Order represents the world government's determination to destroy the Arthur pirates. This time, they were all old acquaintances. Sengoku, Red Inu, Blue Pheasant, Yellow Ape, Carp, and several other lieutenant generals and dozens of major generals. The ride lineup can be said to be quite luxurious. Let's go. Cyborg didn't say anything. His eyes scanned everyone's faces. It's all in plain sight. At the sound of an order, everyone boarded the battleship in unison. At this time, Arthur, who was being watched by all the forces on the sea, was in the training room at the moment. Fu Hua's already okay. Since he accidentally saw something he shouldn't have seen yesterday, Fu Hua instantly abandoned his usual composure and chased Arthur to fight. The final result is also conceivable, and naturally it can't be beaten. It was in vain that Arthur took advantage of it a few times. But Fu Hua did not give up and fought against Arthur in the name of competition. Both sides are not allowed to use other abilities, only to have more effort than their hands. It's been a little bit of work since the beginning. It's still early, let's see the move. Fu Hua flung over with a leg whip. Arthur smiled slightly, squatted slightly, and made a 1,000-year killing gesture, quietly waiting. Really? Halfway through, Fu Hua's attack came to an abrupt halt. Captain, don't use this kind of obscene move. The corners of Fu Hua's mouth twitched unnaturally. Against Arthur, she felt it was a bad decision, because the place of attack is always 3 points. Let her carefully accumulate the strength every time, and she can't dissipate it halfway. Otherwise, it's like throwing yourself into your arms, and you hit it straight up. Don't let this be used. That won't be used, or I'll let you have both hands and feet. Arthur couldn't help but roll his eyes. Okay, since the captain said it, let me use my hands and feet. Unexpectedly, Fu Hua actually climbed up the pole, which surprised Arthur. Fu Hua, you've gone bad. Arthur looked at Fu Hua incredulously. Isn't the captain confident? The corners of Fu Hua's mouth hooked up with a smile and asked rhetorically, okay, what if I don't use my hands and feet? What if I win you? A defiant look flew over Arthur. If the captain can still win, let me do anything. Fu Huakai didn't believe that Arthur could win against her without both hands and feet. You can do anything, that's what you say. Arthur gradually smiled, his tongue licking his lips. I'll show you the new magic skills that this captain has practiced. Lick it until you don't want it. The battle on this side continues, and Arthur simply doesn't bother to pay attention to the actions taken by the world government. Because if you think about it, it's just a few tricks. Chapter 158 on the island. After 3 days of time, 90% of the people have left. The once bustling island now looks deserted, with only a few hints of its former prosperity. Dover, it's okay if we leave for a while. In the empty streets, Doflamingo and his party were also idle. Tory Bull hesitated for a long time and said, yes, Dover, I heard that the world government has issued an order to slay demons, and it won't be long before a large number of navies arrive. With the firepower of the demon slaying order covering, I'm afraid that such a small island won't last long at all. Diamantine next to him also chimed in. The world government's demon slaying has long heard of them, and it is an existence that can destroy an island. Don't say that again. Doflamingo's footsteps stopped, his eyes scanning the surroundings. Do you think this island is not as powerful as the so-called demon slaying order? Having been on this island for so long, Doflamingo probably knows something, if not by any means. And as long as it can withstand this crisis, then it's the real leaping dragon gate. Crisis represents opportunity. Since Doflamingo had made up his mind to follow Arthur, it was natural that such a thing would not happen to run away halfway. And at the same time, in Arthur's private estate, Arthur, who was sitting on the couch, looked at the screen in front of him. What's on the screen is exactly Doflamingo and some of them. Captain, apart from their master, the people below seem to be a little undetermined. Naturally, what Rita is talking about is Diamanti and Toribol. As the saying goes, adversity sees the truth. In this situation, they even thought about running away. If it weren't for Doflamingo's unhesitating refusal, I'm afraid Rita would have to clean up the portal. It's normal. Arthur shrugged his shoulders unconcernedly. In fact, Arthur met with Doflamingo a few times once in a while and didn't say a word to anyone next to him. It's not an exaggeration to call it strange. Toribol, their allegiance to Doflamingo has so far. AI-chan, look where the Navy has arrived. The monitoring system Arthur had already begun to set up at the earliest times, and now it has been perfected for the most part. As soon as he finished speaking, virtual screens appeared in front of Arthur. In the screen, dozens of warships are riding the wind and waves, driving forward mightily. Each battleship is like a continent, compared to ordinary sailboats. I am afraid that the slightest collision will become shattered. Wow, what a big ship. Seeing the picture displayed on the screen, Kiana's eyes lit up. Captain, based on the current speed, it will take about 5 hours. AI's voice came from the communicator. 5 hours, then wait a little longer. Arthur muttered a sentence when he heard the answer, and then leaned back on the couch behind him. Captain, what are you going to do? With so many huge ships, even if we do it together, it will take a lot of time to destroy it. Of course, it just takes a little longer. Unless the Navy is very powerful, the end is already doomed. If we have weapons, why should we do it ourselves? Arthur chuckled and continued. In the face of these navies, I have prepared a lot of ammunition. That's right. AI-chan has arranged these ammunition properly. IE interjected very appropriately. Well, Miss Ben still wants to show off her skills. As soon as she heard that there was no fight, Kiana lost interest for a moment and slipped off the sofa weakly and lay on Arthur's lap. Don't always think about fighting and killing. In case you get hurt, it's not good. Tapping Kiana's lips slightly, Arthur shook his head helplessly. How can you always think about fighting and killing? It's just a little boring. In the face of Arthur's words, Kiana, of course, quite disagreed. On this, Arthur could only smile slightly. Oh, by the way, what about Fu Hua? I haven't seen her for a day today. Arthur seemed to remember something, and his eyes scanned the living room, except for Fu Hua's figure. Captain, Fu Hua has been in the room and hasn't come out. What happened between you? Rita asked, curious. After all, yesterday, when Fu Hua came out of the training room, his face was very unnatural, and behind him, Arthur, with a smile on his face, inevitably reminds people of something. Is this a secret? Arthur smiled, helped Kiana up, stood up, and walked towards Fu Hua's room. And in the room, Fu Hua sat on the stool with a look of chagrin at this moment. I really shouldn't have made a bet with the captain to make such a request. Fu Hua sighed as he spoke, and couldn't help but recall the scene in the training room yesterday. Arthur restrained his hands and feet and did not use any other abilities. However, in the end, she still lost. It's really unwillingness to use such a method. Fu Hua clenched his fists as he said, and slammed them the table in front of him. Since you lost, you have to fulfill your promise, Fu Hua. The door opened, and Arthur walked over with a smile on his face. Bound his limbs, he still has his head to move, adding licking and licking skills. As strong as Fu Hua, he can only be worshipped. Hey, you're not going back on your word. My request doesn't seem excessive. It's just that we can communicate in a way other than words. Seeing Fu Hua sitting there motionless, Arthur would not let go of such a good opportunity. Don't worry, since you promised, you will definitely do it. Fu Hua said, his clenched fist slowly released. Yes, that's great, come on, I'm ready. Arthur said with his arms outstretched. To avoid embarrassing you, I'll just close my eyes. Looking at Arthur, who really closed his eyes, Fu Hua's beating heart calmed down a little. Standing in front of Arthur, he took a deep breath and slowly approached, just touching it. I guess it will take less than a second. Don't hesitate. The more you hesitate, the more confused your mind becomes. With lightning speed, Fu Hua's heart wanted to take action immediately, and with a little bit of water, he immediately had to take a step back. However, a man's mouth is like a deceitful ghost. It's like sleeping in a room, just holding you and not moving. As soon as he took half a step back, Fu Hua felt a restraining force coming from his waist. The distant face approached again and met the smiling eyes. A French wet question. Fu Hua's calm gaze gradually became a little blurred. The brain spun around as if it were in the clouds. When he regained consciousness, he was already lying on the sofa. The weight on her body made her suffocate slightly. However, at this very moment, boom, the door was opened. Captain, Kiana was just halfway through her shouting when she suddenly stopped. I'm sorry, you guys continue. I said a word carefully and left quickly, and even forgot to close the door. Taking advantage of such a period of time, Fu Hua had already regained his consciousness and pushed hard with both hands. Arthur also knew that the best time had been missed, so he stopped forcing it and stood up. Well, what's that? There's going to be a fireworks show. Don't be bored in your room all the time. Watching Arthur leave, Fu Hua collapsed on the sofa again, as if he suddenly lost his strength. Looking at the roof, there is no focus in the gaze. After a while, he reached out and touched his lips and sipped them gently. Chapter 159, finally. Is it already here? In the harbor of the island, Arthur and his party stared ahead. As far as the eye can see, the sea and the sky are connected. The figures of dozens of warships can already be faintly seen. Captain, they're already in range. Do you want to open fire? The range of the weapons on the island is naturally much longer than that of the Navy's cannons. Wait a minute when you can see it with the naked eye. Otherwise, you won't be able to appreciate the expressions on their faces. A smile tugged at Arthur's lips. Captain, it turns out that you still have such a hobby. Rita next to her smiled and continued. No wonder I always don't like being in the dark, but I was appreciating the expressions on our faces. Rita said as she leaned over to Fu Hua and whispered, Fu Hua, you have to be careful in the future. Seeing and seeing are two completely different senses. Seeing Rita's flirtatious expression, Fu Hua turned sideways slightly. What does it have to do with me? He muttered something quietly. Rita smiled and accepted it without saying anything more. Next to Arthur is really Waterfall Con. I didn't expect my hobbies to be exposed. Indeed, as Rita said, every time he discusses the meaning of life, Arthur doesn't like to do it in the dark. At the very least, there should be a little bit of soft light. I looked at Kiana, whose face gradually changed slightly with his movements. This in itself is a supreme enjoyment. And on the opposite side of the sea, Sengoku looked at the island with a telescope in his hand. Are they the only ones? Sengoku's gaze narrowed slightly. He admits that Arthur's party is very powerful. But in the face of the fire attack of dozens of warships, the strength of the individual has been infinitely compressed. Even if he wanted to be safe, it would be impossible to do it. The whole ship is ready, filled with shells. Through the phone bug, one instruction after another was issued. The entire fleet sprang into action at once. One by one, the head-sized shells are ready and filled. The muzzle adjusts the angle. The Navy stood by and was ready to go. Both sides are waiting. The battleship moved forward slowly, trying to get within range. With such a huge movement, it is naturally indispensable for other people to watch. In the distance, many sailing ships docked there, using the binoculars in their hands to watch the upcoming battle. Seeing the lineup of the Navy is all a gasp. Is this the scale of the Demon Slayer order? Look at the huge battleship and the huge muzzle. It is not a problem to say that it is easy to destroy country. No wonder the Navy can dominate the sea. And with such power, no one dares to confront it. Many let out a sigh and looked at the island in the distance. After today, the island may cease to exist. It's just a pity that there are so many precious items on the island. In the eyes of many people with regret, the battleship was also about to sail into range. All battleships ready. At the order of the warring states, the cannons on the battleship made final adjustments. However, Warring States General, what is that? The Navy next to him exclaimed in surprise and raised his hand to point to the sky in the distance. Streamers of light, mixed with flames, shot towards them, dense like the stars in the sky. The telescope that Sengoku had just put down picked it up again. Hey, isn't it? On the other warships, the yellow ape could see through the telescope that the missiles were emitting a sharp whistling. It seems to mock their ignorance, completely different from the shells in their memory. The streamlined body cuts a graceful curve across the sky. Rumble. A missile was the first to fall into the sea and explode, setting off a huge wave of several feet. The hot air, mixed with the air waves, rolled outward. The calm sea boiled in an instant. It's so powerful. It's just the power of a cannonball. The people in the distance were shocked to see the power of the cannonballs. It was many times more powerful than they had in their minds. The cannonballs were about to fall, and the scene seemed familiar. All defense. The muzzle is fired 45 degrees upwards. Bang, bang, bang. Above the battleship, the position of the muzzle was quickly adjusted. Cannonballs burst out. The shells met in midair, making a roaring sound. With Arthur's technology, they could easily avoid this kind of impact. But what you want is the effect now. Destroy them all with absolute firepower. On the island, all the hidden cannon ports are now revealed. The beautiful island was transformed into a fortress of war at this moment. Captain just activated the 3 layers of weapons, and the other side seems to be a little unsupportable. Do you really want to release them all? Ai's inquiry came from the communicator. That's natural, and you have to give it a warm welcome. After Arthur finished speaking, he waved his right hand, and a huge turret with a diameter of about 2 meters and a length of about 20 meters appeared next to him. Kiana, this is for you, but you have to aim and then fire. Each shell is very expensive. Kiana was instantly excited when she heard that there was an opportunity for her to perform. Don't worry, Captain, it's an absolute 100% hit, Kiana said, and jumped into the battery's operating room. And above the battleship, I saw the sky full of shells, and the smoke almost obscured the sky above. We have 20 warships and nearly 1,000 cannons here, but we don't have the upper hand. Tut tut, I really don't know what to say. The yellow ape's face was calm and relaxed, and he stood on the deck leisurely looking up. This level of scale does not require the intervention of their vice admirals. A small island has such firepower that many countries are inferior to it. A flash of light flashed in the pheasant's eyes, and suddenly his expression froze. From the island, countless lights rose to the sky again. There are more than several times more than the number of them. There's still room for it. Magma appeared on Akainu's body, and the steaming heat spread outward. Big Spitfire, turn your arms into giant lava fists made of lava and launch them to simulate the impact of a volcanic eruption. The power is enough to shatter and evaporate a large iceberg dozens of times larger than the giant clan in an instant. A huge lava fist soared into the sky, instantly enveloping the radius. Immediately, countless volcanic bombs shot out in all directions, relieved a lot of pressure on the ships below. What a troublesome errand. The yellow ape and the pheasant also shot at the same time at this time. After the yellow ape photonified into the air, countless dazzling light bullets scattered out in all directions. 8-foot Kyongyu. The pheasant stood still and did not move, and the ice spears condensed out next to it. Freeze oncoming missiles. As soon as the 3 of them attacked, their power was comparable to the sum of the battleships. At this moment, the people around him suddenly felt a huge energy fluctuation. On the island, a cloud of light quickly condensed, comparable to the sun in the sky. Rumble. Pillars of energy light tens of meters thick burst out. The dazzling light eclipsed the heavens and the earth at this moment. An absolute vacuum was created where it passed. The surface of the sea sunken deeply under the impact of this pillar of energy light. In the blink of an eye, the attack was already instantaneous. Piercing through the middle of a battleship, the power is not diminished in the slightest, and it is shot into the distance. Rumble. A huge roar formed a mushroom cloud for everyone to see. At the center of the explosion, a monstrous wave rose. Dark clouds converged in the sky, and sea spouts appeared out of thin air. Torrential downpour poured down from the sky. It's like an apocalyptic scene. Smack! Those who were in the distance were in the midst of the heavy rain, and the binoculars in their hands fell to the ground unconsciously. His mouth was wide open, but he couldn't make a sound, and his eyes were full of horror. That's when they found out. The power of the previous shells. It's really weak and pitiful. Chapter 160 legend has it that somewhere in the sea, there are 3 ancient weapons that have existed since ancient times and can destroy the world. They are Hades, Pluto, Aquaman, Poseidon, and Celestial King, Uranus. The Immortal King was once a super battleship built by the capital of the Seven Waters, capable of destroying an island with a single shot. Aquaman is a mermaid princess who will only appear for hundreds of years and has the ability to communicate with Aquamans, the king of Aquamans, with the ability to talk to Aqua Kings and command them. The Heavenly King is the most mysterious, and its performance and shape are unknown for the time being. Such secrets are known only to a very few people on the sea. The warring states, who are already admirals at present, have naturally heard of it, looking at the long-lasting traces on the sea in front of him. Following the trace, the battleship, which was several hundred meters long, split in two from the middle and gradually sank into the sea. In an instant, in the blink of an eye, so fast that they didn't have time to react. I only saw a bright light that made people can't open their eyes flash in front of me. The next second, the whole world has changed dramatically. Sea spouts rose into the sky and affected the weather. Dark clouds instantly thickened, lightning flashed and thundered, and rain poured down. Everyone stood in the midst of the majestic rain, their eyes dazed. Everything in front of me is like a dream, and I can't believe it. Only the roar in the sky was still ringing. The legend of those 3 ancient weapons came to mind in the minds of the warring states. I'm not mistaken, am I? I actually killed a battleship with one shot. The yellow ape took off his sunglasses and rubbed his eyes, his face full of incredulity. I didn't expect that there was a weapon with such great lethality hidden. The pheasant's mouth muttered to himself. It can be determined by the blow just now. This time, I'm afraid they will return in vain. The Demon Slayer order relies on a huge amount of firepower. When it comes to stronger firepower, its advantage is lost. Unexpectedly, so strong, Akainu's fists were clenched, and the expression on his face was indescribably ugly. The strength of the individual cannot be compared, and now, even in terms of weapons and equipment, there is such a long distance. How can this be fought? They shouldn't have a second. Such an attack rumble. Before the yellow ape's voice fell, only a dozen seconds later, another bright pillar of light flashed in front of him. The previous scene was played out again. A massive battleship was wiped out in this pillar of light, and another mushroom cloud rose into the air. Sengoku is very glad that these warships are lined up at the moment. Otherwise, under this blow, it will be skewered into a sugar gourd, an unrivaled force, which has already been launched twice in a short period of time. This makes everyone on the Navy very ugly. With the first, the second, inevitably there will be a third, a fourth, and even more. Their warships could not withstand such attrition. Warring States General, what should we do next? We don't seem to be able to match that power. The yellow ape picked up the phone bug, and a faint voice came out. Indeed, with such power, only a few of them can dodge it. This war can be said to have come to an end. Sengoku held the phone bug in his hand, and there was a look of struggle on his face. He didn't know about these things. If they suffer huge losses, they can destroy the enemy, and there is still value in fighting for it. But the truth is quite the opposite. Withdraw. Retreat. 2 words came out of Sengoku's mouth with difficulty. It was beyond the reach of their navy to continue. At the sound of the order, the warship immediately moved. Alas, Captain, they seem to be retreating, and there is still a block of energy. Do they need another shot? Kiana's voice came from Arthur's communicator. Although the power of Arthur's turret is huge, the bullets are not infinite. Only 3 shells can be stored at a time, and the consumption of supplementary energy is in the tens of billions. That's nature. Arthur nodded. If you just beat them away, how can you do that? Since independence is to be carried out, it is necessary to make the world government afraid with an absolute attitude, lest you have to trouble him at both ends for 3 days. Although he has no ambition to dominate the world, his 1/3 of an acre of land still can't be disturbed. Now we're just getting started. Okay, Captain, you're cruel. With a hint of pity in her tone, Kiana took aim again and fired. And in the middle of the sea, on the battleship preparing to evacuate, the familiar fluctuations made everyone change color. Rumble. The dazzling light tore through the darkness, dispersing a newly formed sea spout in an instant, striking a battleship again with unmistakable precision. In a flash of fire, the huge battleship sank to the bottom of the sea. Before the first mushroom cloud had dispersed, another mushroom cloud rose. Sure, it's the rhythm of killing the Navy. Those watching from afar were shocked by the firepower of the island. Such a great power is unheard of for them, but it's never a big deal to watch the excitement. Seeing the retreat of the Navy was also expected by them. This power is really hopeless. However, I didn't expect another attack when the Navy was about to retreat. The Navy arrived in a mighty way, and it had not been a few minutes until now. There are already 3 warships buried in this sea area forever. It can be said that the losses are heavy. It's so deceitful. Akainu had an angry look on his face. They were about to retreat, and they even attacked, completely forgetting who started this war. Lieutenant General Sakaski, if you can't get angry, I can send you there for free. The voice of a yellow ape came from the phone bug, which made Akainu's face even more ugly. If he could have beaten it, he would have rushed forward without hesitation. Strength, at this moment, is incomparably desired. And just then, a huge shadow flew in the sky from afar. Thunder and lightning streaked, making the shadows clearer. It was a huge mountain peak flying in the sky, Golden Lion Shiki. The pheasant's gaze was slightly condensed. The power of the fluttering fruit possessed by the Golden Lion Shurji can make non-living forms levitate, even if it's a high mountain. Ha ha ha, Arthur. The humiliation you brought me in the past will be over today. Rampant laughter echoed between heaven and earth. Let everyone know the purpose of the Golden Lion Shurji's visit this time. The massive mountain peaks floated above Arthur's island under Shiki's command. Once the ability is lifted, the weight carried by the mountain itself and the impact of the fall are combined. Destroying a small island is no problem. And at this time, Sengoku received a call from the Gangbone Kong. Chapter 161. Ha ha ha, Arthur. The humiliation you brought me in the past will be over today. In the sky, the rampant laughter of the Golden Lion echoed. Huge mountain peaks float above Arthur's island. In order to be able to destroy Arthur's island in one fell swoop, the Golden Lion managed to find a mountain twice the size of the mountain. A sword broke off from the root and flew thousands of miles to carry it here. That's the Fleet Admiral Flying Pirate's Golden Lion Shiki. In this sea, the name of the Golden Lion is still very loud. Just listening to the laughter is already recognizable. Carrying such a big mountain to declare war is worthy of the Golden Lion Shurji. Looking at the shadows in the sky, countless exclamations rang out one after another. When their strength reaches their level, it is really easy to destroy a country. Golden Lion Shurji, I didn't expect him to come over to join the fun. In the harbor, above Arthur's group, an invisible barrier kept the storm out. Arthur looked up at the Golden Lion that was approaching and couldn't help but smile. They're old acquaintances, from the time of Locks to the present day. Captain, do you need me to stop him? Mei Mao then recommended herself. No, let me do it. Arthur shook his head, stepping on the invisible staircase step by step towards the sky. The lightning and thunder around him, the wind and rain did not affect him in any way. Daddy, we seem to be a little late. In the distance, the Moby Dick also appeared in the sea. When he learned that the world government had launched a demon-slaying order, Whitebeard rushed over. But looking at the current situation, it seems that it is a little late. Whitebeard stood at the front of the deck, unmoved by the wind and rain. Golden Lion Shiki. Looking at the peaks in the sky, walking forward, Whitebeard muttered to himself. Then his gaze fixed on a rising figure. It's not too late, or just right. A faint voice echoed around, and there was a gleam in Whitebeard's clear gaze, quietly watching, waiting for the next development. In the sky, two figures met. "Arthur, let's fight it out." Arthur really didn't understand why the Golden Lion hated him so much. It's just that he initially refused to cooperate with him and destroyed his entire fleet last time. Forehead. If you think about it this way, it seems that the feud between the two people is not small. Well, if you have to do it as soon as possible, otherwise you won't have a chance. Arthur beckoned, with some impatience in his expression. It's this expression again. Do you know that this kind of expression is very annoying? Seeing Arthur's expression, a flash of anger flashed on the Golden Lion's face, and he looked like he was gritting his teeth. A huge rock floated at his feet, allowing his body to continue to levitate in midair. With a wave of his hands, the huge mountain peak smashed straight towards Arthur. Unshackled by the power of the devil fruit, the weight of the mountain peak, and the impact of smashing down, its power is undoubtedly enormous. The strong wind pressure caused the storm to change direction a little. "Arthur, are you despising me?" Seeing Arthur standing there motionless, the Golden Lion roared again. Because of the anger, the veins on his forehead were exposed. "Do you think the lion will do his best because of the rabbit's revenge?" A smile tugged at Arthur's lips as he continued. "No, he won't. Because all it takes is a light blow. Weak rabbits will open their stomachs." Arthur stretched out his index finger and tapped it lightly. The oncoming huge mountain peak came to an abrupt end. Without warning, it stopped in midair. Space freezes. Such a miraculous skill is really useless. Now you understand, right? The gap between us will not change because of your anger. Golden Lion Shiki. I couldn't hear the slightest fluctuation, and the indifferent tone echoed in the sky. For a moment, the thunder in the sky had to be avoided under this sound. I caught it so easily. Marco looked up incredulously. "I know he's strong, but he's a bit outrageous, Daddy." Whitebeard's face also showed a look of surprise. Put yourself in their shoes. If he faced such a huge mountain, he would probably only be able to use brute force to split it. But Arthur is so understated, lifting as lightly. Strong, really too strong. The three little ones of the Navy also saw this scene and were shocked for a while. Where did the Warring States general go? The yellow ape's gaze swept around, but he didn't find a figure of the Warring States. "Report to Lieutenant General Paisalino. The Sengoku general has received an order from the air marshal and is now in the cabin." A Navy officer next to him immediately reported loudly. "I see." The yellow ape nodded unconcernedly, but once again turned his gaze to the sky. "I thought that the arrival of the Golden Lion would be inseparable from Arthur, but now it seems that their expectations are going to be disappointed." "It can't be." Seeing Arthur block his attacks so easily, the Golden Lion's face was full of disbelief. "Draw the two famous swords at your waist. Sakura Tin and Would Wither. Brush." The two sword keys swept across the sky, and the dark clouds in the sky were all split, revealing the sun that had been lost for a long time. Gallop towards Arthur. However, the sword key, which was extremely sharp enough to cross in all directions, seemed to be blocked by an invisible force when it hit the mountain peak. There is no point in moving forward. What's going on? There are too many times to surprise the Golden Lion today. Even if Arthur blocked his attack, this mountain that could be easily split before could not be shaken this time. The sword key gradually dissipated in midair and finally disappeared completely, leaving only the incredible face of the Golden Lion. "I can't figure it out. It's simple. But I won't tell you. Leave your doubts and go to hell and repent." Arthur's fingers moved slightly, and cracks appeared on the surface of the mountain peak in front of him. Gradually, it shattered into pieces and fell from the sky. In the midst of the rocks, Arthur walked slowly towards the Golden Lion. "No, absolutely impossible. The gap between us can't be that big. Even if it's as strong as Locke's, I can touch it now." The long golden hair flew in the air, and the Golden Lion seemed to be crazy. The twin swords are swung continuously. One after another, sword key that spanned thousands of miles burst out. Under the impact, the surrounding storm was not visible in the slightest. However, Each sword key was approaching Arthur's time. The space in front of him suddenly distorted. The small black hole sucked countless sword key into it. Although the sword key was strong, it could not withstand the tearing force of the space. Step by step, Arthur came to the golden lion and pointed his index finger on his forehead. It's like a crazy golden lion that came to an abrupt end at this moment. You know what? Under 10,000 times gravity, even light will be engulfed in it. This was the last word the golden lion heard. In midair, a huge black hole appeared in front of Arthur, engulfed the golden lion in it. The deep darkness seems to suck the soul into it, because this plot will take a big turn. So it's a bit of a stuck plot. I want to completely bring the power of Honkai into the world of pirates, upgrade those navies, and by the way, take out Otto and whip the corpse. I didn't want the golden lion to die so quickly all at once, but the repeated appearance was quite annoying, so I let him end it. And don't talk about gravity anymore. Size. Chapter 162 in the sky. A figure stood tall. In front of him, the massive black hole shrank and shrunk, and finally vanished, leaving only nothingness. The golden lion, that's it. No. A scene in the sky shook everyone's hearts. The clouds gradually dissipated. An array of sunlight shone on Arthur. At this moment, it was like a god. The captain is so handsome. Kiana looked up, little stars in her eyes. Captain Great. Bronya's words were simple and clear, with a faint smile on her face. Rays of sunlight pierced through the dark clouds and shone on everyone's faces in the sea. The warm sunlight seemed to soothe the shock in their hearts a little. Golden Lion, it's worth it. Whitebeard had a solemn face, as if he was seeing off the Golden Lion. The two of them also have some communication with each other, although they're not too familiar, but they could be barely friends. At this moment, the Golden Lion Shurji came to a complete end. The dark clouds in the sky have all dispersed. The sea is gradually returning to calm, and Arthur does not feel too much about the destruction of the Golden Lion. If you don't provoke him, you might be able to live a little longer. Turn around and walk down step by step. However, before he had taken a few steps, the pace of progress came to an abrupt halt. A sound of collapse quietly emanated from the sea. At the same time, Rita, who was waiting for Arthur's return at the port, also felt this familiar breath at the same time. The look of joy was not only somewhat restrained. Rita, do you feel it? Mei, it's the breath of Honkai. Fuhua, emanating from the sea. Bronya, the Honkai index is getting stronger. A few minutes ago, when the Golden Lion arrived, the Warring States notice received an order from the Steel Skeleton. Sengoku, I already know your situation. There was a sigh from the phone bug. Marshal Sora, I'm really sorry. A defeat is a failure, and Sengoku will not make any excuses. This is to be expected. The words of the Steel Bones made Sengoku startled. Just listen to the voice that continues to come out of the phone bug. Things have finally reached the point of no return. Warring States General, listen carefully to what I have to say next. Steelbone's tone suddenly became serious. In the deepest part of your ship, there's a huge chest. Open the box, take out the contents, and sink into the sea. Then immediately leave the area. After knowing Cyborg Kong for so long, it was the first time that Sengoku had heard him use such a serious tone. Yes, Marshal Kong. Sengoku didn't hesitate too much, nodded immediately, put away the phone, turned around, and entered the cabin. According to what Steelbones said before, they came all the way to the end of the battleship. The heavy door was opened, and a cold air permeated outward. When did you get an ice house here? A flash of doubt flashed through his mind, and Sengoku saw a huge box in the middle of the ice room. The box is square, and its material is not visible. Opening the box, inside the transparent glass cover, the purple crystals shimmered faintly. Are you going to throw this into the ocean? Although these instructions were strange, Sengoku did not hesitate too much. Holding the glass cover more than half a meter high in both hands, he walked out slowly. When I came outside, I saw the scene where Arthur killed the Golden Lion. Already surprised, he threw the thing in his hand directly into the sea. All the warships, return at once with all your might. The order of the new arrival was quickly transmitted to the various warships through the phone bug. The other navies only thought that they were temporarily retreating in the face of Arthur's overwhelming strength and did not think much about it, and immediately took action. Under the calm wind, the huge battleship turned around neatly and headed for the distance. And in the middle of the sea, the crystals thrown into the sea by Sengoku gradually radiate mysterious power. It attracts a variety of fish and sea kings. For the sea kings, the crystals that gradually drift away seem to have become the most delicious food, competing with each other. However, the breath emanating from the crystal, these sea kings or other creatures inhaled a trace. Their eyes gradually turned red, and their whole bodies underwent terrifying mutations. The aura of rage gradually permeated the sea. In midair, Arthur's footsteps came to an abrupt halt. The aura of Honkai gradually became rich from the initial indifference. It is emanating from within the sea. A flash of doubt flashed in his eyes as he looked at the battleship that was gradually moving into the distance. These warships were extremely fast, as if they wanted to escape from this land of right and wrong immediately. What is this? I felt an ominous aura. Whitebeard suddenly felt an inexplicable aura enveloping him, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. At this moment, the calm sea suddenly became turbulent. Whoa! Huge creatures burst out of the water. His body is covered in white armor, with sharp claws and sharp teeth. From these mutated creatures, you can still see the shadows of the former sea creatures, such as octopuses, pirates, turtles. Rumble. A wave rises into the sky. A behemoth of several hundred meters appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Is that a sea king? How did it become like this? The creature in front of them was very different from the sea kings they knew. It's not just about appearances. It felt like I had changed into something else. Hong Cayman. Arthur looked at the creatures emerging from the sea below and couldn't help but spat out another name. How is that possible? How can it be a Honkai here? Arthur's gaze flashed with confusion, and he looked again at the battleship that was moving away in the distance. Captain, what are we going to do next? Rita's voice came over the communicator. Destroy all of these Honkai beasts, and you won't be able to get them close to the island. The Honkai beasts below were densely packed, numbering in the thousands. Among them, there are hundreds of heads over 100 meters. Usually, there are no sea kings in this sea area at all, but I didn't expect so many to pop up at once. Yes, Captain. Rita, who was on standby in the harbor, all of them acted at this moment. Arthur looked down from above, and everything was in full view. With a wave of his right hand, an endless cold air burst out. With the island as the center, the churning sea gradually froze, forming a battlefield. These things are really cute, so let me train you well. Kiana directly transformed into the form of the Lawgiver of the Void, and with a wave of her right hand, the Spear of the Void behind her shot out. In an instant, it pierced through the 5 newly emerging Honkai beasts. Everyone else attacked in their own way. For a while, the elemental turmoil made the sea area that had just calmed down boil again. It's going to be a while before the next one comes a while. There's no problem with Delissa's words. After all, she's also a mascot-like existence. Chapter 163, Daddy. What are these things? Around the Moby Dick, a massive Honkai beast rushed out of the sea. Wearing a hard armor greatly increases the defense of the whole body, making it difficult for ordinary swords to hurt. When I saw someone, I pounced on it directly. The sparkling teeth send chills through the heart. But the people of the Whitebeard pirates are not weak either. There are not a few people who have devil fruits. Basically, you can protect the perimeter of the ship. That's when it happened. A sea king hundreds of meters away, like a snake. No, it should be called Honkai Beast now. Honkai Beastmon refers to creatures that are infected by Honkai. The bodies of creatures infected by Honkai will undergo mutations, and whether it is strength, speed, or defense, the overall quality will be improved in an all-around way. Honkai beasts generally determine their strength based on their size. The snake-like Hong Cayman suddenly burst out of the sea, bared its hideous fangs, and bit at Whitebeard at the front. It doesn't matter what you are, if you dare to make a move on me, then be conscious. Holding in his hand, he swung it forward. Hit Hankamen's head accurately. Shocking Fruit's ability is activated. Above the blade, a transparent ball of light enveloped the Hankamen's head. The power that shattered space made the Honkai beast not have the slightest power to resist. In an instant, he lost his head and fell into the sea again. But just after killing one, another one popped up again. It's as if they can't be killed. And on the ice not far away, everyone showed their top strength. The Lawgiver of the Void walked forward slowly. The Spear of the Void behind him swept out from time to time. Everywhere it went. The hard armor of the Honkai beast was like papier-mâché. Bella followed on her left and right like a loyal guard. The Lawgiver of Thunder is holding the Heavenly Death Realm Judgment, and it is basically one or two swords. The Lawgiver of Reason rides a small motorcycle, surrounded by a replicated key to truth. Lasers emanated from the key of truth, forming a powerful network of firepower. Seal held a blood-red scythe, and the eyes of the blood abyss were the same. It's like death coming down to the world and harvesting the life around it. And the moon spirit, who also wields a scythe, brings silence to all things wherever it passes. Compared to them, Fu Hua's battle was slightly more difficult. You have to find the power core of the Honkai beast first, and then break it. Overall, despite the sheer number of Honkamen, the battle was one-sided. AI-chan, have you found the source of the collapse? In the sky, Arthur sees the big picture. The people around who were originally watching the excitement are all unlucky now. The ship was destroyed, and people died without forming an effective resistance. It also paid for their curiosity. Don't worry about Whitebeard. It's no problem to protect yourself. Arthur's attention was all focused on these Honkai beasts. One by one, Honkamen emerged from the sea. These can't appear out of thin air. There must be a reason. And Arthur guessed that it must have something to do with the Navy that left before. Found the captain. A light curtain appeared on the communicator, and a small red dot flickered in the light curtain and gradually sank. Is it in that direction? Arthur stared at an area in the middle of the sea and waved his right hand. The strong gravity formed a pillar of light, causing a passage to appear in the sea. Straight down, the Honkai beast encountered was pierced by gravity and accurately hit the Honkai crystal, which was still sinking. Under the shroud of gravity, the collapsed crystals disappeared between heaven and earth. The source on the screen in front of him vanished. Kiana, Mate, Ebronia, Arthur shouted their names one by one. You leave this area first, and I'll bury these Honkai beasts once and for all. Through the exploration just now, Arthur had sensed that there were still countless Honkai beasts running around under the seabed. They fled for nothing, but feared a potential danger to his island. So it's better to destroy all of these Honkai beasts. Hearing Arthur's instructions, Kiana and the others quickly retreated to the island. At this moment, the Whitebeard pirates suddenly felt a force restrain them. The Moby Dick slowly levitates from the sea. Don't struggle, just a while. The faint words echoed in their ears, and then they saw a shocking scene. Under the shadow of Arthur's sight and sight, everything in the sea will be visible. Do you want to keep running? Stretch out your index finger and swipe it in the void. The sea in the distance is divided by an invisible force, the power to manipulate space. Space can be manipulated at will, let alone the seawater attached to it. The sea was split. Marco stared at the scene below with wide eyes. Daddy, it seems to be a bit similar to your abilities. Whitebeard Shock Fruit can do the same. It's kind of like, but my attacks are indiscriminate, and this one can be manipulated at will. Which is stronger and which is weak, the superior is judged. With Arthur's movements, with the island as the center, the sea in a radius of hundreds of miles is completely cut off from the outside, slowly detached from the surface of the sea and levitated. There are so many. Through the transparent water, you can see that within this water, dense Honkai beasts roam. The Honkai on the edge tried to break out, but always ran into an invisible barrier. Hundreds of miles of square water seemed to have been picked up from a perfect puzzle. The huge crater that was hollowed out below, after the surrounding sea water stopped for a second, quickly formed a huge whirlpool and slowly filled it. And in midair, The island-like sea water hovered in front of Arthur. Looking at the Honkai beast swimming inside, Arthur's eyes flashed with coldness. Mimic the Star of Eden. 0 power rating, like a black hole. A large black hole appeared in front of Arthur, and the surroundings were instantly plunged into darkness. Around the black hole, not even light has a foothold. The black hole engulfed all the seawater that enveloped the Honkai beast and finally gradually disappeared. After doing all this, Arthur looked in the direction of the battleship's departure. At that moment, Hubelian rose from the island with May and them to Arthur's side. "Captain," the hatch opened, and Rita's voice could be heard from inside the communicator. The figure rose into the air and entered the Hyperion. Suspended in midair, Hyperion instantly accelerated, turning into a streamer and disappearing into the sky. "That's it. So gone. What should we do?" Whitebeard looked at the height of tens of meters above the sea and blinked. "I don't just leave them here." A few seconds later, the Moby Dick was suspended in midair as if it had lost its strength to support it. Instantly drops from midair like a meteor. That's when they realized that it didn't seem bad to stay on it. As for why Han Kamen doesn't obey the orders of the lawgiver, it's assumed that it has not been approved by Honkai God. After all, the current lawgivers are not doing things for Honkai. Chapter 164 on the sea, more than a dozen warships sailed forward in the shape of arrows. On the deck at this time, the 3 yellow apes were all surrounded by the warring states. After they left, they saw what was happening in the sea behind them. The shocking scene is still etched in their minds. But then there was confusion about those Honkai beasts. There had never been such a strange creature on the sea. The 3 of them glanced at each other and at the same time looked at Sengoku. If anyone in the room knew anything, it was this one person. Warring States General. What's going on with those monsters on the sea? There was seriousness in the pheasant's tone. The sudden appearance of unknown creatures is naturally worrying. Ordinary sea kings are naturally no threat to those of them who are generals. But the monster that appeared just now had an aura around them that made them feel uncomfortable. Now is not the time to say that. Sengoku was actually a little confused. He just obeyed the order and threw the crystals into the sea. I didn't expect so many terrifying creatures to appear. No wonder Marshal Air asked him to leave the sea quickly. Surely he already knew what was going to happen. Looking into the distance, a meteor rushed towards them at a great speed. When I got closer, I realized that it was a battleship with a white shell. Although the Navy was the first to withdraw, the speed of the Huberian was not comparable to theirs. It didn't take long to catch up. It's too foul, it's flying in the sky. The yellow ape's eyes were about to protrude. Hubelian stepped on, the hatch opened, and figures jumped out of it. Enemy attack. The surrounding navies reacted immediately and immediately swarmed up. Rumble. Powerful forces burst out, and those navies flew upside down at even faster speed. Frozen time capsule. Chill your opponent with a blast wave of cold air from a long distance, freezing wherever it passes. Brush. The huge scythe was slashed halfway through, and Rita had a faint smile on her face. Rita won't let you disturb the captain. And at this moment, the yellow ape's whole body was photonized. Heavenly Cloud Sword. In midair, he condenses photons in his hand and forms a sword of light as a weapon. And in front of him, the spear of Yakong was ready to fire. Arthur landed on the deck without stopping and walked straight towards the warring states. The dog bites the red lotus. Akayu is also unwilling to be lonely. The arm is lavaed, and the lava arm is transformed into the shape of a dog's head, and the lava limb is stretched to attack. The heat of the lava is combined with an attack, and its power is very powerful. However, a faint black mist emerged around Arthur. One of the 2 abilities obtained from Seal. The power of withering has the ability to decompose. The faint black mist seemed to be harmless to humans and animals, but when the red dog attacked, it fell into the piranha like a piece of fresh meat. It was eaten up in an instant. What kind of weird ability is this? Akainu was shocked. However, what made his face change even more was that the black mist gradually spread upwards along his attack. The intense heat had no effect on the eerie black fog. At this time, Akainu showed his extremely decisive side. The lava arm fell off on its own, and the moment it fell to the ground, there was not even a scum left. It's dangerous. Akainu has a palpitating appearance. If these black fogs are allowed to continue to spread, I am afraid that his main body will be in danger. Seeing Arthur walking towards the warring states step by step, he didn't know what to do for a while. And the warring states opposite Arthur immediately activated the power of the devil fruit, and dazzling golden light spread out from his body. The armed color was attached to it, like Mount Tai pressing on the top, and it slapped down. Resistance is futile. A long knife appears in Arthur's hand. The two attacks collided together, and the domineering impact caused the surrounding world to change color a little. Sengoku only felt that he had hit an impregnable mountain. No matter how much power he used, he couldn't shake it. Arthur flicked his wrist, and the tip of his sword stabbed out. Burst! The long knife pierced Sengoku's palm. Then flip again. Sengoku's huge body crashed to the ground in the direction of rotation. The entire battleship trembled. The long knife in Arthur's hand was like a nail, nailing Sengoku to the deck. The armament color only increases the body's defense and attack power. It's not really invincible. It's just that I didn't encounter a force that could break it. The devil fruit's abilities faded, and Sengoku returned to its original size. It's just that he looks very embarrassed at the moment. Because of the pain, his face twitched from time to time, and looking at the arm that was penetrated, the blood slowly flowed outward. Tell me, how did you get those Honkai beasts? Arthur's gaze did not fluctuate in the slightest, staring into Sengoku's eyes. I'm not going to tell you. Sengoku's expression was serious. His eyes were solemn, and he didn't flinch at all. Really? That's great. An icy tone came out of Arthur's mouth. It's so far away just now. You shouldn't have seen how the golden lion died. Now it's time to keep your eyes open and take a good look. What are you going to do? Sengoku heard a hint of something bad in Arthur's tone. You'll soon find out. With a wave of his right hand, a huge black hole emerged from the sky. And directly below the black hole is a battleship. The black hole fell with a bang, engulfing the battleship with hundreds of square rounds of seawater. For a time, a semicircular sphere was left on the surface of the sea. It all happened in a flash of lightning. When the reaction came, a battleship and hundreds of navies disappeared. Arthur, what did you do? Sengoku's eyes were almost popping out, and there was a glint of anger in his eyes. How did those Honkai beasts appear? Arthur asked again. However, as soon as the warring states opened their mouths, another black hole fell from the sky. With less than 10 seconds between the top and bottom, the two warships disappeared between heaven and earth. At the same time, there were almost 1,000 naval lives. How did those Honkai beasts appear? The tone is exactly the same, but makes Sengoku seem to hear the most terrifying words in the world. I couldn't say anything for a while. A battleship disappeared again. Keep asking. A battleship disappeared again. Such a scene made the three yellow apes chill in their hearts. Demon Slayer order. It's indeed a demon-slaying order. Standing before them is the real devil. But they don't have the power to kill the devil. When the seventh battleship disappeared again, Sengoku seemed to wake up from a dream. It's Marshal Kong. It's Marshal Air who made me do this. He told me that there was a chest in the battleship, and when he opened it, he threw the contents into the sea. Why those monsters appeared, I don't know. At this moment, the warring states are almost on the verge of collapse. One by one, lives disappeared in front of him. It's all because of him. Marshal Steelbones. A light flashed in Arthur's eyes. He slowly stood up, pulled out the long knife inserted in Sengoku's arm, waved his hand, and put it into the system warehouse. Let's go. Landing on Huberian cleanly, he flew in the direction of the naval headquarters. And on the deck of the battleship, Sengoku, who fell to the ground, slowly flipped his body. Bow down and kneel there. Large tears fell from their eye sockets and fell on the deck. A whimper slowly came out of his mouth. The sound is getting louder. The body bent on the deck suddenly stood upright. A loud whistling sounded higher and higher, as if it came from the soul, spreading outward for a long time, full of powerlessness, anger, despair, desolation. Chapter 165, Huberian flashed in the sky. Captain, I didn't notice any Honkai along the way. AI's voice came out of the communicator. Got it. Thank you for your hard work, AI-chan. Arthur sat on the couch and exhaled softly, picked up the teacup in front of him, and took a sip. Sure, it's so bitter. As soon as he drank it in his mouth, Arthur almost threw it up. It's like tea. It's like medicine. Rita, why has your tea-making craft regressed so much? A fight with Kiana. Putting the teacup in his hand on the table, Arthur looked at Rita next to him speechlessly. Captain, this cup of tea wasn't made by Rita. Rita smiled and gestured with her eyes to Fu Hua, who was sitting opposite. Tea is bitter, but it calms the mind. Fu Hua's faint voice spat out of his mouth. Fu Hua made me tea for the first time. Even if it is bitter, I will drink it. Arthur picked up the teacup in front of him again. There is a fragrance on the smell, but it is bitter to drink it. I don't know what strange things Fu Hua used to brew out. The long pain is better than the short pain. Arthur held his breath and drank it all in one go. It's a cup of no worries. After drinking this cup of tea, there are no thoughts in my mind, which leaves a word. Bitter. Captain, I find you to be a special treat. Kiana sat on Arthur's lap with an unhappy expression. At the beginning, it was the first time for people to make tea for you, Captain, but they only took a sip and fed the flowers. Seeing Kiana in front of her, Arthur pinched her little face. You should be glad I fed the flowers. Otherwise, you won't see me again. Arthur drank the tea made by Kiana, just a small sip. Cells all over the body are protesting violently. After a little care, he poured the tea into the flower pot next to him. As a result, within a few hours, the flowers that had been blooming slowly withered. The matter was also revealed. It took a lot of Arthur's energy to comfort Kiana. Just now, Captain, you said that Fu Hua's tea is very bitter. Don't you drink it too? Obviously, this incident brought back Kiana's memories. This tea is made with the help of various precious medicinal herbs. For condensing tea, it can not only block distracting thoughts and improve people's attention, but also have the effect of beautifying and strengthening the body. There's also a big glass in the kitchen. You can all drink a little. Fu Hua introduced the effects of the tea she made. Rita can prove that although this tea does not taste very good, it does have many wonderful uses. Rita said as she held a large cup in her hand and poured a glass for everyone. Alas, it's so bitter. After taking a sip, Kiana immediately opened her mouth wide and stuck out her tongue, and her little face wrinkled together. The taste is really hard to swallow. Mei also frowned slightly. Captain, can you help Sire drink? In that case, please ask the captain to help Bronya drink too. Bronya and Seal approached Arthur with teacups in both hands. Arthur rolled his eyes. You two should drink it by yourself. Even if you look at me with such a cute expression, I won't help you drink. Seeing that Arthur didn't help, Bronya and Seal immediately launched a cute attack. Captain, actually Seal and Sister Bronya just bought a pair of fruit aprons yesterday. Seal lowered her head and said with some embarrassment, Ahem, apron or something, I don't really care at all. The main thing is Fu Hua's tea, which I like to drink. Leave it to me, both of you. Arthur took the teacup from Bronya and Seal and drank it all with great pleasure. Ah, you are cunning. Kiana looked at this scene in a daze and felt a pang of chagrin in her heart. AI-chan, how long will it take to arrive at the Navy headquarters? Fiddling with Kiana's twin ponytails with both hands to increase attack speed, Arthur asked AI. At the current speed of Hyperion, it takes 3 hours, and full speed can reduce the time by 1/3. Then full speed ahead. The appearance of Han Kamen in the world of pirates made Arthur feel a little unusual. So it's important to figure out the ins and outs of this. That's why Arthur's performance is a little eager. Sitting on the sofa, I wanted to wait patiently, but a feeling of discomfort came from my body. Are you feeling hot? Arthur's words left everyone a little confused. Captain, are you suggesting that we can wear less? Hearing Rita's answer, Arthur was stunned. I'm not kidding. Aren't you really feeling hot? Seriously confirming Arthur's expression, it seemed that he was really not teasing them and couldn't help but shake his head. It's because of the tea. At this time, Fu Hua spoke and stood up from the sofa. 1 cup of tea a day is enough, and you drank 3 cups in a row, Captain, just now. After Fu Hua's explanation, Arthur understood. There are so many requests for attention. Let's go. Captain, go to the training room, and you'll probably be back to normal in an hour. If you sit there, it will take a long time, Fu Hua said, and took the lead towards the training room. I want to take a good rest, but it seems impossible. Arthur also got up from the couch. It was as if a fire had ignited in his heart, and he couldn't rest there leisurely. Training room. Arthur and Fu Hua stood opposite each other. Let's get moving, Fu Hua said and began to slowly move his whole body. Do you have to do this before every training session? Arthur blinked. Yes, a person can only do a few simple activities. Fu Hua nodded. We're two of us now, so I'll help you, Arthur said with a dodge behind the glitz and crouched down. First of all, this leg must be fully moved, otherwise there will be cramps, which will be bad, Arthur said and gently pressed Fu Hua's ankle. The knee is also very important. After all, it exists as a bearing. Suddenly attacked, Fu Hua wanted to resist, but he didn't know why. It was as if the whole body was frozen in place, and it was impossible to move. Of course, this was not a small trick performed by Arthur, but Fu Hua did not expect Arthur to start directly, and his whole body was stiff and unable to move. This made Arthur even more reckless. Look at you. You still said you want to fight me. How can you be so stiff? I'll give you a full body massage. The shoulders are here too. You have to rub them more. Arthur descended his neck and drew a semicircle back to his place. One left and one right down to the waist. It then flows to the back of the spine and descends to the tail. Fu Hua only felt the electric current pass through his body, and the cells in his whole body were cheering. The feeling of pleasure made her forget to think for a while. Chapter 166 Captain, where's Fu Hua? Seeing that Arthur was the only one who came out, Kiana couldn't help but look left and right and asked, Fu Hua, it may take a while to come out, Arthur said as a picture flashed through his mind. It was when he left, and a figure in the training room was lying on the ground, sweating profusely, with a misty look in his eyes. There are still remnants on the hands slowly recovering, and then tidying up a little. I'm afraid it will take about an hour. Captain, your smile is suspicious. An inexplicable glint flashed in Rita's gaze. Arthur snorted. AI-chan, what's going on now? Expect to arrive in less than an hour. Arthur nodded and sat down on the couch. After resting for a while, Fu Hua appeared in front of everyone. It's just that Fu Hua at this time looks a little different from usual. She glared at Arthur viciously. Outsiders feel like they're flattering. The confusion in his eyes has not yet dissipated. Fu Hua, why did you change your clothes? Kiana scratched her head. She clearly remembered that Fu Hua didn't seem to be wearing this before. Because I was going to fight next, I changed my costume. As he spoke, he couldn't help but glance at Arthur again. Let her do that with her hands. Her clothes will become crumpled and stained, and it will naturally be impossible to continue wearing them. But your last outfit is also very suitable for combat. Looking at Kiana's current state, it seems that she wants to break the casserole and ass to the end. Fu Hua was a little speechless for a while. Kiana, you just made some dessert. Would you like to try it? Rita will always show up at the right time. Okay. As soon as she heard about the food, Kiana's attention was instantly drawn to it. Fu Hua breathed a sigh of relief and nodded gratefully at Rita. Rita smiled in response. It's beautiful too. Hearing Arthur's words, Fu Hua snorted coldly, obviously with some small emotions. After all, it's with some compulsion, so naturally I won't be happy. Captain, we still have 10 minutes to arrive. AI's voice came from the communicator. At the same time, in the Navy headquarters, countless navies have been in action long ago. Watching Arthur leave, Pheasant reports the situation to Cyborg. Inside the marshal's office, Cyborg frowned and paced back and forth. I really didn't expect that even the last resort would be easily settled. Arthur's pirates, were they sacred? Through the description of the phone insect Pheasant, the general situation has been mastered. In fact, for those Honkai beasts, the steel bone sky is only half understood. And the box that Sengoku brought was also sent to him by the world government before leaving. My old bones look like it's time to move. There is a resolute look on the old face of the steel bones. In any case, The pirates must not be allowed to do whatever they want in their naval headquarters. As soon as he got the news, he had already ordered the deployment to be made. Even if you can't beat it, at least you can resist it for a while. But imagination and reality are often the opposite. At this time, in the middle of the sky, Hubrian can already see the figure of the naval headquarters on the big screen. AI-chan, the Hyperion cannon, is ready to be charged. Okay, Captain. The Hyperion guns were so powerful that they had no problem destroying an island. But Arthur, of course, will not really destroy the naval headquarters completely. It's just a dismount. Let them know that any resistance will be futile. If you want to survive, you can only cooperate obediently. Arthur's gaze was looking ahead. On the screen, the deployment of the Navy headquarters can be seen at a glance. Countless navies stood outside, densely forming a beautiful landscape. And in the wide square ahead, phalanxes were made up of cannons. Such a firepower configuration is naturally very dangerous if it is facing an oncoming pirate ship. But Arthur was flying in the sky. Whether the range of these shells can be reached or not is still a matter of opinion. In addition to intelligence, air supremacy is also very important to the success or failure of a war. If you control the sky, you will truly become the master of war. The Hyperion cannon is fully charged in 10 seconds. AI's crisp voice came back around. 10, 9, 8. Within Hyperion, everyone was staring at the countdown on the screen. Let's let this cannon open a new chapter. Arthur muttered to himself. 3, 2, 1. Hyperion main gun. Launch. Outside the headquarters of the Navy, Hubrian flying in the sky can already be seen with the naked eye. In the face of this unfamiliar battleship, everyone was a little puzzled. Report to the Marshal of the Air, a UFO was found in the sky. Hearing the Navy's report, Steelbone Kong immediately walked out, his head slightly raised. Is this what the report says will fly to the battleship? As soon as a look of clarity flashed in his eyes, he felt a wave of energy fluctuations. In front of the battleship, energy converges like the sun in the sky. The furious energy makes one feel the breath of destruction from afar. Steelbone's face gradually revealed a look of surprise. The dazzling light in the sky burst out in an instant, piercing the space and blasting straight towards the middle of the naval headquarters. Quick! Flash! On. As the attack approached, Steelbone's eyes slowly widened, and his face was shocked. The loud roar that blurted out was instantly drowned out by the roaring explosion. The explosion spread outward from a single point in an instant, engulfing 1/5 of the island's area in an instant. The dazzling light radiated out, not far behind the sun in the sky. Time seems to stand still at this moment. Next second, rumble. After a brief silence, a huge shockwave exploded in the center and spread outward. Wherever the shock wave passed, everything was flattened. Arthur could be seen clearly from above. A huge mushroom cloud rises from the center of the island. Dust spread in all directions, covering the entire island with lightning speed. The previous chapter was released too early, otherwise the later paragraph could have been seen by more people. It's too late to modify this point after being reviewed, so it can only be deleted, otherwise it won't be able to withstand a one-day ban at once. After writing this plot, if you find a chance, you'll have a big chapter. Chapter 167, The Headquarters of the Navy, which was originally a place of justice and solemnity. At the moment, however, it was overwhelmed by the aftermath of the explosion. A huge mushroom cloud rises in the center of the island and lingers for a long time. A powerful shock wave swept through everything around it. Countless navies flew out like kites with broken strings. Above in Hyperion, Arthur watched the scene with a stunned gaze. AI-chan, the power of this blow is a little too great. You're going to blow up the whole island. Arthur just wanted to show off the sheer power he had. But under this blow, there were still a few people in the Navy headquarters who survived. Captain, the power of the Hyperion main gun is so great. And that's just normal level. IE's tone carried some small grievances. Okay, hopefully, people aren't all dead. For the power of the Hyperion's main gun, Arthur also saw it for the first time. Very powerful indeed. But it is clear that Arthur somewhat underestimated the tenacious vitality of these navies. After a few minutes, the dust that had enveloped the naval headquarters began to dissipate. It reveals its current appearance. The original majestic and tall naval headquarters has completely disappeared. In its place, it was a ruined and desolate place. The powerful explosion directly lifted the entire turf, especially the center of the explosion. A huge pit emerges. This was where the headquarters of the Navy was located. And now it's a bare place. The explosion spread outward in a radial shape, leaving traces on the ground. On the edge of the island, you can also see some remnants of ruins. The steel bones and empty body were armed and domineering, and he gradually converged and stood on the edge of the giant pit in embarrassment. His gaze swept blankly around. If it weren't for some traces around to prove that this is the headquarters of the Navy, I would have thought that I had suddenly come to another place. How? What has become like this? Cyborg muttered to himself. The world in front of me has become a little unreal. In the dust, some lightly wounded navies were helping those who were badly wounded. The earth-shattering cry of the past is gone, and all that remains is a dreariness. I didn't mean to cause this situation, but I don't apologize. A figure descended from the sky and landed in front of the steel skeleton. Looking at the steel skeleton in front of him, the position seemed to be on the verge of an explosion. But even so, the shock wave of the explosion and the resulting high temperature were still stubbornly resisted. It's just that he has multiple burns all over his body, and he looks very embarrassed. Looking at Arthur in front of him, Steelbin didn't have the slightest interest in wanting to do it at the moment. Perhaps, from the very beginning, the Navy was your enemy, which was the biggest mistake. The steel bones are no longer as high-spirited as they once were. At this moment, it is like an old man in the twilight, which makes people feel a trace of sourness. I got news from Sengoku that you should know something about the contents of the battleship and the box. Arthur will not forget the purpose of his visit. It's the government of the world. Without too much hesitation, Steelbone said it directly. At the same time as the order to slay demons, there was also a large box. After that, I believe you have already guessed a probability. That's all I can say. You can guess how things will develop after that. Arthur nodded. His eyes swept around, and from time to time he could hear bursts of crying out in pain. Although we are on opposite sides now, hopefully in the future we will be friends rather than enemies, Arthur said with a wave of his right hand. Small porcelain vases are neatly arranged in front of the steel bones. If you look at it, there are 500 bottles. These are the true healing elixirs, and as long as they are not dead, they can be revived. Arthur turned to leave. Steel Gukong looked at the small porcelain vase in front of him, and a look of emotion appeared in his decadent eyes. A glimmer of light flickered out, and Arthur also decided on his next destination. The Red Continent, the Chambord Islands, the merry joy known as the Holy Land, World Government Headquarters. Quantum Sea, it's like a sea, but there are countless worlds to bubble in. If the universe is seen as a glass of water, then there are countless identical cups around him. Let the water in the cup spill outwards and flow along the walls of the cup, creating a small puddle in the middle of the table. This puddle does not belong to any one cup, but every drop of water in the puddle can come from any one cup. There is indeed such a magical dimension between parallel worlds, and this puddle is called the Quantum Sea. Theoretically, you can reach another universe by crossing the Quantum Sea. On a floating block of space in the Quantum Sea, the branches of a tall blue-leaved tree that shade the sky and the sun develop in the space of the Quantum Sea. This is the tree of imaginary numbers. It is the birthplace of countless worlds and the birthplace of all truths and laws. The tree of imaginary numbers is rooted in the Quantum Sea, and together they form worlds. Time flows on the trunk of the tree of imaginary numbers, like a canopy, branching out into an infinite world. Each branch is pregnant with a world, and most of these worlds are imaginary spaces, and by chance there will be real numbers of living spaces. Arthur's mind flashed with information about the Quantum Sea and the tree of imaginary numbers. Could it be because of me that I indirectly brought Honkai to this world? Questions flash through my mind, and he's now on his way to chasing questions. In this world, besides him, there are other people who have the power of Honkai. Use a high concentration of Honkai crystals to mutate the creatures of this world and become Honkaimen. Such a move, Arthur believes, is not something that ordinary people can do. It is necessary to have a good understanding of the power of Honkai to be able to do this. Who the hell is it? During the voyage, Arthur was unusually quite composed. Let Rita and the others be a little uncomfortable. And at the same time, in some dimly lit room, a picture appeared on a huge screen. Hubelian's figure flashed across the frame. In front of the screen, a figure is shrouded in shadows, making it impossible to see his face. We're finally going to meet. This moment has been too long waited. A faint sound echoed around them, then fell silent. Chapter 168, Captain, you can already see the Red Earth continent. Within Huberion, Arthur's eyes were also fixed on screen. It's back here again after a long time. However, the mood is very different. Is there any smell of Honkai here? AI-chan didn't detect it. Arthur nodded. Things seemed a little more complicated than he had imagined. There was not a trace of collapse detected. Is it not in itself, or is it too well hidden? No matter how much speculation is made now, it is useless. Go ahead and head to Mary Joy. Huberian's speed slowed down and flew towards Mary Joey. At the same time, within the holy land of Mary Joy, a figure leisurely strolls through the surrounding scenery. The man wears a white shirt with rolled-up sleeves and a purple tunic with gray trousers and brown boots. He is about 20 years old, fair-skinned, and has a beautiful appearance. Blonde hair and blue eyes, long hair tied into a single ponytail draped over the left shoulder. If Arthur saw this man, he would have been shocked by his presence. Otto Apicalis. They don't belong to this world, but they exist in the same world as Kiana, a world of collapse. And behind Otto, the 5 old stars who are now the highest power in the world government accompany him. It looks quite respectful. If this scene is seen by others, I am afraid that they will be shocked and unable to say anything. The time should be coming. Otto's slow step stopped, and the 5 old stars behind him also stopped. Master Otto, what are your next instructions? Among the 5 old stars, one of them took a step forward and lowered his posture. The man in front of him is now a spokesman for God. Its status is equal to that of their true leader, him. In other words, the current world government is completely in the hands of Otto. There's no need to prepare with much fanfare. Just to meet someone who should have met a long time ago. Otto said as he walked towards Mary Joy. The gaze is deep and far-reaching. Captain, we're here. Hyperion was suspended in midair, and in front of them, there were steps as white as jade. At the end of the stairs, there is a large door, and behind this gate is Mary Joa. Captain, someone has appeared. At the end of the stairs, several figures can be seen on the screen. Love-chan, zoom in. The screen zooms in, and the face of the human figure is clearly visible. Oh! Seeing a faint smile on his face and his eyes looking at their figures, Arthur's pupils contracted slightly. Otto's appearance surprised Rita and the others. At this time, it seems that all the mysteries have been answered. If it's Otto, it's normal to be so familiar with Honkai. But why is Otto here? Since it's already here, let's come out. Otto looked at Hyperion above, a faint voice echoing around. Captain, all eyes were on Arthur, waiting for her next command. Let's go, let's see. Huberion descended from the sky to a certain height. The hatch opened, and Arthur took the lead, and one by one the figures jumped down. Stepping on the white steps, Arthur and his party stood opposite Otto. Why are you here? Arthur was the first to throw out his own doubts. When I saw you, I was even more convinced of what he said. Otto's gaze swept over Kiana and the others, a faint smile with a hint of loneliness. It seems a little too early. This sentence seems to be addressed to Arthur, and it seems to be talking to himself. Then I immediately sorted out my mood. Again, put on an elegant smile. My name is Otto Apicaris. Although we are meeting for the first time, I've been watching you for a long time. Arthur, when did it start? I guess it's after the end of the Locks era. That's when I got here. Come to think of it, it's been a hard journey. Otto said to himself. But he completely explained the doubts in Arthur's heart. Hearing Otto's words, a light flashed in Arthur's eyes. You came here using the Thousand Realms of One. Although it was an inquiring tone, Arthur was 90% sure. The 1,000 worlds is a key of the gods, similar to a locomotive made by the core of the Lawgiver of the Void in the last era. With its 0 power rating, it can open the way to the imaginary tree. This is the only way to explain it. Bang, bang, bang. Otto clapped his hands and praised the features with a face. Yes, it's a journey that you don't want people to go through again. A flash of memory flashed in his eyes, and then he returned to normal. But luckily I'm here. I saw you at the same time. After a short conversation, Arthur had already understood the general idea, but he had one last question. Why are you here? That's Arthur's question. Otto's words are very simple. It's like taking a bus, taking 1,000 worlds to get here, but the danger is unimaginable. And the main thing is that Otto's arrival must have been tacitly approved. TA in Otto's mouth before. If Arthur is not mistaken, the so-called TA must refer to the will of Honkai. My graduates are all pursuing one purpose. Resurrect Karen. At this point, Otto's face became very serious, and he looked at Arthur with a solemn gaze. And according to TA's prompts, you have such abilities. At first I didn't believe it, but now Otto's gaze swept over Kiana and the others again. Now I'm convinced. Work with me, Arthur, Otto said and held out his right hand. Help me resurrect Karen. The whole world is yours. It's not just this one world. At this point, everything is clear. Otto has spent his life resurrecting Kallian, and for that, he can come to some kind of agreement with Honkai's will. I traveled through the universe and came here on 1,000 worlds. It is indeed a touching and heartfelt story. But what does this have to do with him? Karen is also one of the Valkyries. According to normal logic, it is true that Arthur can summon her. But if summoned and given to Otto, how could such a thing happen to him? Arthur sighed softly. Otto, you're not the first person to ask me to work with. Maybe it won't be the last. But the answer I'm giving you is the same. Sorry, I refuse. Chapter 169, Sorry, I refuse. The voice is soft, but there is no doubt about it. This made Otto's elegant face on the other side change slightly. His expression gradually converged, and finally he became expressionless, looking at Arthur calmly. What reason do you have to refuse? What you get is 2 worlds. Since Otto has put forward the conditions, he naturally has a certain amount of confidence. Through this period of observation, he found that Arthur was a person who did not show much on the surface. But in fact, he is also a self-respecting and unwilling to be subservient. This can be seen from the construction of the island. That was a manifestation of Arthur's ambition. It has to be said that Otto is smart. Just a few things like Arthur's mental touch. Now, he has sent 2 worlds to Arthur. It stands to reason that he should not refuse. 2 worlds are indeed a very tempting bargaining chip. Then why? Otto was stopped by Arthur in the middle of his speech. But what is it compared to Kiana and Karen? What's more, if I want this world, who can stop it? Arthur's words were sonorous and powerful, and the space around him was shaken. There's no room for negotiation. Otto was clearly not giving up. This may be his only chance. Nope. Arthur's answer was still quite firm. On this kind of issue, he will not make the slightest concession. There was a sudden silence in the surroundings. The solemn atmosphere began to strengthen between the two. You just said, if you want to get the world, and who can stop it? For a long time, faint words came out of Otto's mouth. The head was slightly bowed. Do you think everything would have gone so well if I had been here? There was already a hint of threat in the flat tone. Otto, this sentence coming out of the mouth of one of your puppets is really not convincing at all. Arthur's eyes shone with a light that saw through everything. What do you mean? It was quite rare for Kiana to be able to endure such a long time before asking questions. But Rita, next to her, shook her head gently at Kiana. This matter is between Arthur and Otto, and it is better for the others not to get involved. Otto, should I say you are cautious, or are you cowardly? He even used a puppet to talk to me. Arthur didn't notice it at first, but slowly sensed something was wrong with Otto in front of him. Otto standing in front of him was not Otto himself. It's a puppet made of soul steel. It is precisely because Otto has mastered such a technique that his consciousness can switch back and forth between the puppets, so as to achieve the goal of immortality. The reason why this is so is precisely to cope with the current situation. Otto Apicaris, wielder of the first divine key, the Void Treasure, the key of the first god, the key of revelation. The Void is a weapon crafted by the core of the first lawgiver of the above eras, the lawgiver of reason. The normal state is a golden hexahedron, which can be turned into a fluid. Weapons and items that can be copied to the user to understand the construction principle are the same as the divine key, but the copy divine key is nowhere near as good as the real divine key. Inside is an almost infinitely extended knowledge space, which stores the knowledge of the previous civilization collected by the lawgiver of reason. And this knowledge has been preserved with the core of the lawgiver, with the particularity of the lawgiver of reason's ability. The ability is the same as Bronius. Once you have fully understood the interpretation of a thing, you can reproduce it again in your own power. Whether it's an automatic rifle, a giant battleship, or even a god's key, anything that knows its mechanics and how it works can be reproduced out of thin air. It can be said that it is quite a perverted ability. The more knowledge you have, the more power you will exert yourself. When the entire universe is parsed one day, it is not impossible to replicate it. This shows the power of the lawgiver of reason. Mimic Judas's oath. 0 power rating liberated. Charismatic enchantment. Judas, like the lawgiver of restraint, has the ability to neutralize Honkai and weaken other forms of energy to varying degrees. Its 0 power rating is a divine grace barrier that rivals the Loris abilities, creating an enchantment that negates Honkai energy for 1 minute. Now that the negotiations have broken down, the second package can only be used. As for the strength of Arthur and his party, Otto couldn't be clearer. As soon as he came up, he directly put the ultimate. Even the lawgiver, within this divine grace barrier, cannot use any power for a while. Otto knew that all he could do was for a moment, and all he wanted was this moment, when Arthur and his party were defenseless. Mimicry. You do, Chun. Otto came to Arthur, his body covered in illusory feathers. Through the void myriad treasure, it is similar to the ability to manipulate brain signals and control consciousness. Tell me how I can resurrect Karen. That's all Otto wants. The moment Otto made his move, Arthur was already on guard. The vanishing power around him didn't panic him in the slightest. Although his strength has been greatly weakened within this charismatic barrier, it has not yet reached the point where he has no power to fight back. But Yuduchin's strength made him feel a little troublesome. Consciousness blurred and seemed to be stripped away. Such a feeling comes and goes quickly. The spirit shook for a while and soon returned to normal. Consciousness returned, and the question Otto was asked. Captain, the people around me seemed to sense that something was wrong. Although the strength was greatly weakened, it still attacked like Otto. Fu Hua came to Arthur with an arrow step and kissed him directly without hesitation. Arthur suddenly felt a surge of energy explode in his brain, stared at Fu Hua in front of him. How's it going? Are you awake? Seeing Arthur looking at her blankly, Fu Hua also noticed that his behavior just now seemed to be a little different. You don't think about it. If you were hit by Yudukhen, you must be disturbed by the outside world to quickly wake up. Outside interference. It turned out that Fu Hua had used that method just now in order to wake him up. Transmit energy into his body and get rid of the control of the feather dust illusion. At this moment, Arthur was really glad that he had hesitated for a moment. Hesitated to pit Otto, so he maintained the posture of being hit by Yudukhen. I got the enjoyment of this chi taka. This wave is not a loss. I'm completely conscious. Arthur looked excited, as if he had been beaten with chicken blood. This Otto, even if he is a puppet, will fight until he can't find the north. Get out of the way, let me come. Arthur shouted, and the steps he had just taken immediately stopped, and his eyes looked at Fu Hua. It's a good feeling that we'll have the opportunity to talk about it. After finishing speaking, it shot out like an arrow from the string in an instant, leaving him standing in place with a faint ruddy Fu Hua on his face. The armament color is attached to the fist. A punch was punched in the face, as Kiana dodged Kiana's attack on Otto. Boom! Otto, suspended in midair, fell to the ground like a meteor. A huge crater was smashed. Divine grace enchantment. Otto is also a surprise. Among the people present, in a one-on-one situation, he may be able to hold on for a while, but there are so many people. It's not enough to see it all. Arthur's figure also fell from the sky and fell directly into the dust. Bang, bang, bang. Fist of meat? No, or rather, fist of steel. A crashing sound came from inside. Soon the power of the divine grace enchantment dissipated. Boom! A punch blasted out like a missile exploding, and a powerful shock wave spread outward. In the dust, Arthur stepped out of it. "Captain, where's Otto?" Rita's eyes flashed with doubt. "There's not even scum left." Arthur waved his hand and looked at the 5 old stars on the side. These 5 old guys have been motionless since just now. It doesn't feel normal.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.